early, so we just sat here for half a second, just looking awkward. But welcome everybody to Friends of Backlog, episode something, October 15th, 2020. This is a show where we discuss things that are in our backlog that we're catching up with, our current games or whatever the hell we're doing, our little video game book club kind of thing. And this week was Until Dawn, and so we all played it, and I think we I don't know. This game is an interesting game. It is interesting. I have a lot of opinions on it. I've seen it a lot. I've seen it a lot before I played it, but I didn't watch the whole thing, so I knew just some of the story before I went into it, because it was one of those games I saw. I was like, I'll probably never play it. So I had some kind of insight going into it. Nick, on the other hand, Nick, you've played this already. Before.
I did. Yeah, I played it a long time ago.
So
yeah,
this is
like
your
2 years ago.
Second playthrough after a few years. Okay. And then Brian, did you play it before?
No, I wasn't even familiar with it until the end of September when we were looking at our horror list of potential games to play.
Okay. So I want to get your initial impression, Brian, since you've had no experience with this game at all, what you thought after finishing it.
Yeah, I really liked it, even though I will say there are lots of story problems.
Yeah.
But the game itself, actually, I was surprised it was more gamey than I thought it was going to be. Like, I kind of figured I thought it was like more pure narrative, like character runs in here and you kind of get a choose your own adventure, go left, go right, and then that's just what's going to dictate it. But it was there was just more actual interactive game moments to keep you involved, which I think is smart and good. And some of them had serious consequences to the story. So, but I mean, like, I planned on playing it in 3 to 4 sessions because I knew the game was roughly 10 hours, and each chapter, there was 10 chapters and they're roughly about an hour each, I think is what I was expecting. And then I ended up playing almost in 2 sessions, and then the one session almost entirely. Like, you just totally blew yourself out. That looks great. Yeah, you look great.
I look like I'm off Game Boy camera.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I feel like I'm talking to you from either you're in the far future, like, and I'm finally like reaching out, or you're in the far past and I'm able to bridge a connection.
You got me all messed up with messing around with this thing. So. Anyways, keep going.
Oh no, so I was gonna play, like, I played the prologue and then I went to bed, and then I was gonna play like kind of like 2 to 3 hours a night before we were gonna have our session, and then next thing I know, the next day I played it. I had a day off from work, and I think I played like 7 chapters straight, like without surprisingly
really?
like pretty. It was a lot. Like, I was like, oh god, and then I like took a break for the day, and then I was gonna play it the next day, and I ended up just close it out tonight, and then I beat it almost entirely in one day, but without thinking about it. Even though I will tell you, we'll get into it. There is a lot of story problems, but I found it's the kind of game I want more of, and I like playing it like every few months or every couple of year. They just throw a game out like this. I'm like, that sounds great.
Okay. I mean, I'm gonna go because I'm in the middle here between you and Nick. The meat in the sandwich. But this game, I hated it, but I liked it. It's strange. I have this whole mix of like, there's some things that made me really not like it, but some of those things that made me not like it made me reverse like it. I don't know. It's just like this weird, like, just ridiculous bullshit game that you accept how much bullshit and stupidity is in it, that you just say, whatever, I'll enjoy it for the campy, crazy nonsense that it is, which is what it turned out for me. I beat it in one day. I knocked it all out in one day, but that was like a week and a half ago when I was on my horror insane trip, which I did go ahead and beat Amnesia, Dark Descent, by the way, too.
Wow.
So you can't make fun of me for that.
Throw that in.
Either.
Just brag. Just toss that in.
Just did it real quick. But Nick, was it worth it going through a second time? Did you have anything like, wow, this is kind of refreshing because I'm going through it differently, or was just like, whatever, I don't, it's the same thing. Nick.
I
There you go.
don't remember much of my. I don't remember a lot of my choices for my first.
Oh no, he's having
Am I breaking
issues.
up?
I think you're getting better. It was breaking up. Try talking again.
I'm there. Okay. Am I good?
I think so.
Okay. I don't remember a lot of my choices from last time.
Okay.
So it's hard to tell. Like, it did feel like a fresh playthrough for me. I mean, I knew certain things that were going to happen, but I don't know. Because all the choices felt fresh, it didn't really matter. Like I knew, like when you're having the psychiatry sessions, like I knew who was. I knew the reveal for that, and like little things like that. But I knew it ultimately ended up being like a monster horror. This game was like, I like it, and it makes sense that the guy who acted and wrote so many other horror movies, because this dude was like, I'm not gonna just do a slasher. I'm gonna do something that's gonna have like ghosts in it, like from The Ring. I'm gonna have some Saw sessions in it, some torture porn. I want to do monsters in it. And he's like, I want to just do everything. And like every trope you can imagine, he's like, we're gonna have like 8 teenagers, and every teenage trope you can put in a game, we're just gonna put them all in there and just have a good time. So you can tell it was written by somebody who really enjoys the genre and is okay with being camp.
Oh no, Nick. Did we lose you again? I think we lost Nick again.
I think we did. Yeah.
Well, darn. He'll be back. He'll be back.
Yeah. Well, to go on his point, I think he's right that there is the story of this. Yep, he's gone.
He's gone. I'm just gonna leave my screen split. You're still here normally, but I'll leave my screen the way it is.
He very clearly is paying homage and respect to the like. Well, I wanted to even say like the '80s slasher, but it's like you're right. It's all the genres. It's monster, slasher, ghost, slightly paranormal. Also paid homage to Scooby-Doo. There was a whole bunch of this that I was like, I think this is a Scooby-Doo stuff happening, which I was right, but well, to a degree.
Yeah. I mean, they did throw a whole bunch of stuff in there, and they went kind of crazy, and I can see why people liked it a lot when it first came out. I watched stuff in there, and I not knowing anything about it, I would always watch it and see the characters and be like, I hate this game so much, because the characters would make me hate the game immediately after hearing them talk. But that was intentional.
Are you doing okay? Like, are you just angry at everyone right now?
Me?
Yeah.
Why would?
Because I would say not all the characters were instantly hateable. They were annoying, some of them, because a couple of them were like pretty agreeable from the beginning.
Yeah. They give you like the safety net of which ones was it? I can't remember.
Well, Sam.
Okay. Yeah.
And then
Ashley wasn't bad.
Starts off not bad.
Yeah.
And then the football player with the
Mike.
What was his name? The Letterman. Mike, the guy with the Letterman jacket.
Yeah.
No, I thought
Letterman.
Matt was a Letterman jacket. The one who kind of disappeared for most of the game.
Oh, okay.
Was like the whole job.
Yeah, Emily's boyfriend, who was like the guy who got screwed over by dating the worst human.
Yeah.
You mean Jessica?
No, Emily.
Emily was the girl who was like his ex-girlfriend.
Yeah, Emily's she's the super bitch that I tried to kill multiple times and didn't.
Yeah.
And the one way I could have, I kind of refused, because I was like, guys, these aren't those are zombie rules. I don't think we're playing zombie rules.
So I didn't try to kill anyone. I tried to kill
I did Emily. I was like, there's no one here who deserves more to die than her.
It is true.
And she's also the least grateful for all the help everyone gave her the whole time.
Yeah.
But I can hear that most of these characters in the end were. We'll get into the other plot stuff, but there was only one person in the end I really liked. Two.
Who?
Two is minor.
Who? Like.
Oh, Sam was my favorite.
Of course.
And then Matt was the other one I liked that I thought he got a pretty tough shaft
Yeah.
in this story. And then the rest, God, who cares?
I think if everyone, like, if you asked everyone these questions, they would give you the same answers because they were meant to be those characters. Like, you were meant to like these characters. You were meant to hate these characters.
I mean, I think Mike's character, there's an evolution to him. I think you could see him as kind of like not an anti-hero, but if someone said they liked him, that would be, I think, fairly reasonable.
Kind of redeemed, like, in the moment, you know.
Because he handled actually most of the stuff pretty chill. Like, even like I don't know. Well, I don't know. We'll get into it. I mean, but like
he handled the stuff chill for you. For me, it was different. I actually tried. I forgot to say when you asked me about my choices, I tried to make everybody hate each other as much as possible, but still save everybody. And I didn't want any romance whatsoever. So like Mike did a lot of dick moves to Jessica in my game, and it really didn't change a lot. I think I don't know if we want to get into it now, but I think when you're Mike, don't you like you almost get with Jessica at some point, don't you? Because I seem to remember doing that in my first playthrough.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yo,
absolutely.
If you, like really upset her over and over and over again.
She like in my version, she gets basically kidnapped in underwear.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, she was fully clothed in my version and just sitting on the couch. And I pushed her in the water. She was all wet.
Yeah.
I see.
I tried to be like good guy. Every decision was like, what's the good guy decision here? So everybody was forced to be the good guy character as much as possible, as it would let me. It's impossible for some of them, but if I had a good guy decision, I made it.
I think I did. I think that was essentially what I did, except for all my Emily choices.
Okay. So for my playthrough, the first time, I went back and fixed it, but the first time I lost Ashley and Mike. Those are two people who died on my playthrough.
Whoa. When did you lose Mike?
At the very end, because
when you jump for the light switch.
Yeah, because I thought they were trying to trick me, and at some point I would just lose if I didn't go there. Like, it was supposed to be like one of these has to be the right choice. It wouldn't be the very last moment, but then I realized what they were doing afterwards. But I thought that I was supposed to eventually make the right choice of going to the light switch, because if I delayed too long, then I would have, they would have died.
Were you not warned by the death totem?
I guess I just didn't get the death totem that would tell me that. I don't know.
That's not what I did, but I remember, because you get that death totem, I think fairly early, that shows the house exploding, but I never went back to review any death totems. I got it and you're like, all right, we're good. And I moved on. Yeah. Even though you have them in your inventory to go review, I was like, we're fine.
Yeah. So Brian, who stayed alive for yours?
Everyone.
You had a perfect playthrough?
I wouldn't say, but okay, there's one caveat.
Okay.
So in that very final stage, by the way, I wasn't happy with this because I was hoping Emily was going to get the axe. She made it. So at the very end, when the Wendigo is in that room, and y'all have to sit still.
Mm-hmm.
The second time, because there's like, I think you end up doing like 4 in a row, right? I don't know, depending on your playthrough, you have to do 4 in a row to make everyone to make it.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's what happened. And on my second one, I did it. And I was just holding it, and I failed it. And then all of a sudden, the thing, just immediately kills Sam. And I was like, I wasn't moving. Fuck you. Yeah. I immediately closed it and restarted it because I'm like, anyone can die. I don't care. This is the only person
Sam
I
died
care
in your
about.
first playthrough then, so we'll go with that.
That is. By the way, I've talked to someone else who played this, and they agreed that was a valid attempt, and they didn't count it as a redo.
Oh, okay.
But I was pissed that I failed. I was like, how did I fail? I didn't move. Mm-hmm. But I was having that problem with the early part of the game that it would do like stop moving, and I'm like, all right, not moving. And then I would look at it, and you could feel it, and all of a sudden it would say fail. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. So after some of those fails, it was just, all right, we're going to set this on the floor.
I mean, you kept it in the box or whatever, right? That's the whole thing. You keep the little light in the box.
Yeah.
Okay, that's weird. Okay, well, Nick, I already talked to you. You didn't have a perfect playthrough your first time, right? Or this time?
No, and to comment on Brian's Sam restart, you can't let the final girl die. I mean, there really isn't a final girl in this game, but she's the closest thing I think we have. Definitely can't let her die because that's against the rules. So
I mean, he
That's fair.
lost then. He lost. I mean, that's all it was. Yeah.
that's
Sorry, Brian.
So when that thing came up and you weren't supposed to move, I would stop breathing because if
That's
I
what
was
I did.
breathing,
I
it
stopped
would, like,
breathing and
shake
literally
it.
held my breath.
Yeah.
I didn't fail
I had
that
trouble.
once. I don't know what it was. I was like, okay, maybe my PlayStation just figured it out or something. But
You could
I
have an
felt it.
old shitty controller that has a bad sensor
I
in
mean,
it.
it came with
Actually,
the
the
Pro.
irony is I have a brand new controller that I've barely used. So
Mhm.
it's like super fresh. I don't know. It's not like an excuse, but I have like an absolutely brand new controller that, because my other one's gotten a little, well, it's old now.
Maybe you
but
guys are just weaklings.
That's, that, it's possible,
Did
but
the
I don't know if you're
controller-
using that word correctly.
Sure.
No,
You're
that's-
so weak.
You're
You
so
can't sit
weak. You
still.
can't hold a controller straight.
Yeah.
No, that was the one thing that I got every time. I did mess up on a couple of the timing where you had to press the button quick enough, and I missed it a couple of times. But they never had anything that was too detrimental. Anyways, I was asking a question about Nick. We'll get back to that. But Nick, you're who lived?
So speaking of timing, so I also anytime there was a quick way to do something, I did it.
Yeah,
I
same.
really wanted to push
Always
myself.
chose the fast way.
And it didn't work out one time. And the one time it didn't work out is when I was Matt and he was on the cliff and I missed a button and he fell and died.
Oh no!
So he
Poor
didn't
Matt.
make it
Mhm.
to like the tower. He didn't get the flare gun to defend Emily and all that stuff. He just died on the mountainside with all of the deer and stuff.
I liked it how like they would give you those.
Emotion.
They would say, "Hey, axe the deer in the neck." Like they give you a timer for it. They're like, "Are you gonna axe him in the neck? It's here. You should hit him in the neck or whatever." And I was like, "No." I guess I don't know. They're expecting people to be on adrenaline and just keep hitting buttons and fail. I guess that was what they were expecting, but
Well, they told you in the very beginning when they're showing you how to shoot the gun, right? And then there's the squirrel, and it said flat out, sometimes the best choice is to not do it.
did you guys shoot the
In
squirrel?
terms No.
I did, yeah. Oh yeah.
If I
Yeah,
was doing
and,
Nick's like, I'm gonna cause the most amount of problems. Yeah.
And it didn't really react. So I shot the squirrel, and Sam was like, "What'd you do that for?" And he was like, "I don't know. I just
shot the squirrel.
And then they were fine. Like I would every time like a status update happened, I would go to like the menu to see whose reputation it decreased with and stuff. And you lose a little. It doesn't really matter for the most part, at least when I was playing it. I mean, I was
No.
trying to upset everybody. It didn't work. Anyways, so Matt died, and then Ashley died because I looked under the noise on the floorboard, and I should have just passed it. I didn't know that. So she died.
That's where she died for me too. I knew it. I was like, this is probably a trick, but if it is, I'm gonna get a timed event and I'll succeed. But they don't give you a time event, so you just die. And I was like, all right, well, fuck.
And then Mike died at the end, the same place he did for you. So those are my 3 deaths. I was gonna replay it because we had time and it was kind of a short game. I was gonna replay it to save everybody, but I
I mean, I went back and saved them because it wasn't too far. Like, it was on the 9 and 10 were the 2 deaths I had, so it wasn't too bad. So I went back and fixed it. But when I did go back and fix it, I did lose the dog, so I was kind of upset.
I would have devastated. I forgot how much you get the wolf dog. That's amazing.
Yeah.
He helps out a little bit. Yeah. You know what's funny about that? So if you save him, I don't know, when you're running away in like the scenes, the dog is like nowhere near you and you can see everywhere around you. And then it cuts over to like you closing a door, and all of a sudden the dog's right next to you. You're like, how the hell did you get right there?
I got nervous because there's one where you're going into a hallway and there's like 3 different Wendigos. They're all coming at you, and then you shoot you knock the barrel and blow the barrel up, and you close it, and the dog's not there. And I was like, like I was really upset that he wasn't with me anymore. And then right when I got to the next cut point, he shows up, and you're like, okay, they just didn't script him in for that.
Did you guys
it's
kick
like
the dog when it came
Did
to
I what?
There's a situation at the beginning where you could kick the dog because he was there and it's like, hey, I don't want him to bite me. He's like threatening, like he's going to bite you. I kicked him. And then like he was still my buddy, but he just didn't do a whole bunch of stuff with me, I guess. He just randomly came back when I was going through the little gated area tunnel. in the time that I messed it up, where I was trying to shoot the barrels and explode the Wendigos or whatever. And I guess I messed up one, and then I was about to die, but the dog came out and saved me, and Wendigo killed the dog. So
Oh,
I don't
that's
know.
so different than mine.
Yeah, I kicked. There was a point to where I was like, "Oh, this dog's gonna bite me." I kick him, and then he just runs off, and that's it.
Yeah, because like with mine, I don't know if this happened with you too, Nick, where you're in I don't know, the stranger's room with like the cigar, and there was a box, and if you open it, there's a bone in there, like a big old bone, and then you take it. I was like, oh, I'm gonna go give it to the dog. So I like took it over to the dog, and essentially I think that's probably the scripting point where it's like you guys are now gonna be buddies.
Yeah. That might be a butterfly, actually.
I didn't give him to. I figured if it came up again, it would be useful when it.
And my dog never died. Like even when he protected me, did stuff. He just was. Yeah, it was like we completed our mission, and he's going on his journey. You know, we wished each other well, and moved on.
So, during that scene, one thing that I didn't figure out because I never looked into it, is the person that was in that building that you were following originally the guy with the flamethrower, or was it a different person completely?
Yeah,
it was?
Yeah, flamethrower guy.
That was his dog too.
Yeah,
yeah. Okay, because I didn't connect that completely. I was wondering if there was some separation there. I thought I might see them at some point. But.
Well, and I think so this is some of the tricks that the game played on us, like story wise, because in which I can complain about some of the beginning, because so we find that they're Wendigos, but if you ever look up what Wendigos actually, did you notice in the house, the cabin, the Wendigo stuff all over the place, where there's actually the big skull and the horns? They had it all over the house. Like it was like the whole cabin was decorated in Wendigo stuff. But when we actually saw the real Wendigos, they just looked like, what was the Descent? That movie.
Descent.
That's all they were the Descent. I was like, are these really Wendigos? These look like those weird creatures from Descent, the movie Descent. But when he was dressed with that flamethrower thing, he looked like a Wendigo of all things, which I think the way that because he had that big cabin on, he had his flamethrower and he had the mask, so he looked like a Wendigo. He was technically a hunter and protector of people, but they want to set up at the prologue that this is a demon monster or a thing. So when he actually, that's a question in the prologue. Like, remember how he reaches down to grab you, like to help you, and then you get the choice: release your sister or just let go. Like, what did you guys choose? I just chose release. I let both go.
Yeah, I released. We both fell. I think that's probably the most popular one. I think there's one where you don't choose anything. I don't know what would happen with that.
From what I read, it doesn't matter what happens. You both die.
Yeah.
The only difference is, I think somewhere later, if you just drop your sister but don't release, then I think you've always felt guilty about that. So there's probably in the end when you find the journal, her journal, that it's something about her feeling guilty about.
But regardless of what happens, they don't both die, right? Hannah lives, but Beth dies.
Well, you find out, but they both die in the story. Like,
oh yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought, is that it didn't really matter. It was just kind of teaching you, hey, you have a choice, you have to do something. But yeah, I knew that was going on, and man, that story was campy as shit.
What was really campy is the jump scares where they throw, like when YouTube first got popular, and like I don't know, like 80s 3D movies where they take a 2D picture and they throw it at your face. There was a lot of that stuff in this game where they just took a monster face and just threw it on the screen real quick and went, ah!
Yeah, I think I remember it.
Oh yeah, especially when you're doing the Home Alone section of the game. Yeah. The Scooby-Doo parts. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm trying to think what else I did in that game that I was wondering about, just unique that was to my run. I mean, I don't think, I can't imagine there's too much difference. I mean, people die eventually, but I can't see that the story always kind of ends in the same way, just you have more people alive or don't have more people alive, right?
Yeah, because there's a handful of choices that feel really dramatic that if you went back and reviewed them, they kind of forced choke point. They choke point a couple of them, like when you get to choose, that's right, did you choose like Ashley, or did you choose? I'm just gonna call it Rami Malek. When you get the Jigsaw version, like yeah, like I chose Ashley, but of course it takes him. But it doesn't matter. I think if you choose him, it goes to him anyway. Like it doesn't matter. But like that's like a choke point. Although I'd be kind of curious, is there a way that Ashley can die earlier? Because at the end when you get the choice after Emily gets bitten, and then they all decide that she's going to spread, she's going to turn into a monster and then shoot her. That I was curious how that would play out if half of those people in the room were dead, because then they can't create that influence to tell you, hey, you should kill her. She's turning into a. But I don't know if if it's all possible for Mike to die before then. So then it's probably irrelevant. Even if he's just there by himself, he'll have that idea.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know for sure. I know it does change it a little bit.
Emily in that room?
What?
Can you not kill Emily in that room when you point a gun? I chose not to, but can you point a gun in her head and actually shoot and kill her?
That's how you kill her. That's how you kill Emily, is by shooting her.
Oh, I thought you. Okay, I thought you said
you thought you took every aggressive one. It turns out you had a chance to.
I tried to save people, but I wanted everybody to hate each
other. Yeah. I want them to hate everyone, but I want them to save each other.
But you said that you were trying to kill Emily. I thought maybe you would have killed her then.
Well, ironically, it was the one time I was like, those are zombie rules. This is bullshit. Like, I was defending more the principle of this is a dumb idea and they're playing by the wrong rules.
Yeah, well, they twisted the words of what the dude said, and I knew, like, after it got twisted, I was like, he didn't exactly say this, and so, of course, this is misconstrued, and this is not true, and they're going to find out. And so I picked that up pretty quick. I did hate that guy died so easy after being a badass for so long and fighting off these guys. He was just like, okay, I didn't know that he was just going to cut my head off immediately and that'd be over. I figured he'd be a little bit more just, I don't know.
I thought that was incredibly weak too. He is the super gruff badass who has been living on the mountain since the beginning of time fighting these Wendigos, and then he dies just randomly on the side.
All the teenagers are fine. They never pulled that one just run, cut head off move on any of the other teenagers. Just that dude, apparently.
Well, actually, didn't they show that like when you find the heads in the mines, like they kind of decapitated everyone. I didn't have anyone die, so I'm not really sure. But I know that I think a lot of people died through decapitations.
Yeah, but I mean, like, it wasn't. It was so instantaneous that his death was, when everyone else, they had a moment to figure out something to do. Like, he had no chance.
And it was like their hands were like made of those Japanese Ginsu knives. You're just like,
yeah, but then when they grab you, otherwise, they don't cut you, and you struggle with them. I don't know. See, that's what just have to accept it. But.
Yeah, it's just Nick's right. It's monster physics, monster logic. You just gotta go with it. I love that you get so mad about this that they're not consistent about their.
Because it's. I excuse it so
often.
The
game is trying to push. It's okay. So, like when Ridley Scott was talking about there's continuity errors of Alien, and they were like, "What about this and this? Why did you do this?" And he goes, "Guys, every scene I made, it was about how can I make this the most horror perfect scene. Continuity was not important." It's about, is this next scene full of horror? Is this next scene full of horror? So continuity is going to fall apart when he's like, I'm here to scare you. So how can I keep telling you this and scaring you?
Right. No, I mean, that makes sense. But I'm still going to complain because it's stupid.
I agree. I get really pissed at that logic stuff all the time too. And they're like, okay, well, they're trying to also tell a story. This is not a documentary.
Yeah.
I mean, they wrote like 3 stories and just threw it into one game. They had to write out a lot of characters.
Like where they're like, oh, well, the bad guy is Sam Raimi, and it's just like, okay, I guess that makes sense, and because he was creepy the whole time. Which after this happened, man, it's so stupid to be like, yeah, my sister's died, but hey, porn stars, let's go. Have a great time. It's not awkward or weird or anything. Then it is really awkward. Then you realize he's just messed up. That was what it was. He's just like has a lot of like, he had a psychiatrist that was trying to deal with all these issues that he had going on, and it makes sense a little bit. But none of his friends picked up on it. they never knew. Like his closest friend was kind of like, no, he's never. I think who was it? Who's that? The guy with the glasses.
Chris, the quote, the nerd character.
Yeah.
But he's like the nerd bro.
Yeah, that knew him.
Yeah,
since
he wore
like
glasses,
a kid.
so he's the nerd.
Yeah. And they just didn't pick up on it, and I was just like, okay. Everything seems normal. None of us people who are friends thought that this was weird or awkward or anything. So again, same thing. They're just trying to make a scary story and say this is how it happens. I get it, but I'm still gonna complain.
Yeah,
well,
I
so
mean,
you got,
actually,
go on, Nick.
I thought so I thought it made sense when they got together, and I kind of figured that since his sister's deaths, that they hadn't really hung out a lot, and this was the time for them to get together and bond, and it was part of a therapy that he wanted to go through as well. So I kind of, I don't know, I bought it when he was like, hey, let's all get together. I think it'd be good for all of us to get through this. What made it more strange is when they're like, okay, I know we wanted to get through this, break out the Ouija board, we need to do this too, this is going to help me.
Yeah,
they kept pushing it.
yeah,
which is like classic 80s, like how often the horror movies in the 80s, like the Ouija board comes out.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, Milton Bradley found out a way to tap into the spirit, the spirit world.
Yeah. And this guy, he put all this shit together in a year. Or was it a year or was it 2 years? What was it? It was 1 year, right?
1 year. It was a 1 year
year.
anniversary.
Yeah, he has this crazy saw setup, all these cameras, all this other stuff. He just figured it out on the side of a mountain.
Well, one, I will say that considering it was his family stuff, he's rich, like with they only quietly. So like any financial thing he had it all. So he didn't have that limitation because they like owned the mountain.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just some of that stuff. It doesn't seem like you have money and buy it. It took thought and intelligence to put some of this stuff together and make it all work.
Yeah, I mean that's a classic horror trope. You know,
It-
I like
it
it. You're
isn't.
like this is not feasible. A person couldn't have done this.
No, and it's not.
Yeah.
But it's.
But I want to address like
what's
two
that movie
things.
that I like, Behind the Mist, Rise of Leslie Vernon? This reminded me of that, and a lot of these types of things remind me of that, where like the slasher like villain, he's like, dude, it takes a lot of skill and time to be able to manipulate everything so they do what I want them to do. Like he's like, you see this axe? I put a little notch in it, so when she swings it at me and it hits something, it's gonna break, and I want it to break. That's the point of this thing. And she goes in here in this shed and finds this stuff, and I want her to go there. And like, there's a lot of planning involved with it. So I kind of thought that when Josh was planning everything.
Yeah. It was very.
But yeah,
impressive.
it would have taken him long.
Yeah.
So a couple of things I want to address. Like they're all teenagers, right? So we assume they're all kind of seniors in high school, but everyone was straight up late 20s, mid to late 20s, which is kind of a funny throwback when teenage movies, none of the people that were cast in it were teenagers at all. They're all like, mid 20s playing high school who don't even look like they're in high school.
Yeah.
There's like a couple of things. There's no way this was the normal group of friends. I'm like, I can't imagine any of these people being friends with each other. Like, what brought any of these people together? Like, there's nothing about them that made it feel like they were this serious clique of people, other than it was like, we're all like the popular hot people. And with that, like, we all don't have any actual interest other than this. But can you imagine, first off, if you had a tragedy with a group of your friends in a very specific place, let's go back to that exact place to have fun. Like, are we going to exercise? Oh yeah, this is where two of our best friends literally like died and disappeared.
Yeah.
Let's go back here and have a party and let's forget it. Like, so,
and apparently
like,
there's like a psych ward that's on it, and then there's like
oh yeah,
crazy
like the psych ward on
experimental
the
things
mountain.
going on. And they just didn't pick up. They were like, we're going to buy a whole mountain, and that includes the psych ward and the sewer system and like all this crazy stuff.
Well, and they'd been going there. So that's another weird plot hole. They'd been going there for years because he talked about that. He's like, we come up here every summer. Because I don't know if there's a part where we have the baseball bat. Did you guys find a baseball bat?
I think so. Yeah.
And then there's whatever line you say, he responded with mine where he's like, oh, it's not just, she's like, oh, you going to use the baseball bat in the winter? That sounds like fun. He goes, no, silly. It's like, we come here during the summer. We spent like a lot of my childhood, we would just come up here all the time. So I spent like a lot of my childhood here. If that's true, the Wendigos have been active since like a long time ago.
Well, apparently the only reason it happened is because the sister ate the other sister. Is what they tried to say, I think, but that didn't really make sense with the story and how they were going forward with experimentation and everything.
So I didn't get that. I thought
because there's the miners. There's the miners from like 53.
Yeah. So I figured most of the Wendigos were miners, and we saw the one with the butterfly tattoo, and that was Hannah. So I think that maybe they became more active when Hannah became a Wendigo. I don't really know, but a lot of those Wendigos were miners.
But those miners were also trapped in the psych ward because they were being tested on.
Yeah.
And so maybe some of those got loose recently. And
like she turned into a Wendigo, then went in and released them or something?
But the stranger was already there fighting the Wendigos before the girl had turned because he's already set up shop.
The mining stuff happened a long time ago,
like
and
in the 50s.
So and all of the Wendigos who became, I mean, they became Wendigos when they were in the psych ward because they had cannibalized their kin, and they were turning as they brought them into the psych ward, and then I think they killed everybody in the psych ward and then retreated into the mountain.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but Hannah's becoming a Wendigo kind of spurred a lot of this, so that is kind of doesn't really make a lot of sense, but. Yeah.
No, it's some. I mean, there's like some other really weird inconsistencies, like the way that the story opens up. They show the guy outside the house with kind of almost like a machete, like a bat, and you think like, oh, okay, here's the slasher. But if that character was actually Matt, who was the slasher? Because it wasn't the stranger, and then it couldn't have been what's Rami Malek's character's name?
Josh.
It couldn't have been Josh because he wasn't mad at anyone at that point. He was still like everyone's friend. His sisters were still alive. And I'm like, I mean, I think they just put that there to kind of imprint on you what you think is going to happen, but it has nothing to do with the story.
The only person that could have been is the flamethrower guy, but because he eventually, I think the idea was like they're trying to scare you and think there's something out there. And so when you saw this guy on the ledge, you know, it's a bad guy. You have to choose to fall off because you would be going towards a bad guy. And so they tried to hype that up. But
I agree. That's like they're trying to set you up for you to make specific choices.
Yeah.
I mean, I just thought that at the beginning, everything you saw was the stranger, even like, you know, before Hannah died and everything. And they were really trying hard to convince the audience that Josh and the stranger, that was the same person. And it was just one slasher. And then it was supposed to be this big reveal when all of a sudden Josh is the villain. But wait, that doesn't make sense. And then they have another reveal. Oh, you got this guy who's the stranger that's fighting the Wendigo. They're two different people. But like, I don't know if like everybody who played this really cared. I mean, they were just like,
they just wanted to,
I don't know.
The horrible attitude and the slasher nonsense and the jump
but
scares.
There's some just hilarious shit. Like you open it up, these kids open up, and I couldn't imagine showing up and taking an actual ski lift, like that, like mechanical ski lift. Like that was scary. Even I'm like, this is pretty freaky. You're like hoping it's gonna work out. But then you end up, and so we're all gonna end up on this lodge. We have no plan. There's no electricity. Now, granted, I know when you have those cabins, there's like, so usually when you have a cabin like that in that kind of like Minnesota climate, you sort of, I forget the term for it. It's like you decold it. So you prepare for the freeze to happen. So you're like, you know, you turn everything off. You know, all the water lines are empty so they can't freeze. So there's stages to bring it up. And they're just showing up at like midnight. And you're like, oh, this is not creepy. There's no electricity. Nothing's working. Nothing's active. But we're going to have fun. And then he sends two friends to quote the guest cabin in this already enormous place. If I'm walking to the guest cabin that's not immediately, and there's the mine shaft, I'm like, oh, I'm fucking out, going back, not walking through at midnight. What kind of crazy ass shit is this? Like,
yeah, no, they made some pretty the stupidest horror movie decisions they could make.
And that cabin, or actually, cabin's bullshit. It's a lodge, because then you find out there's like a full movie theater in there, and you're like, oh, this is like a rich person's lodge. Like when you even get to the basement and you see the boiler and you're like, oh, this is a big place. Don't know why they kick them out. And then they were like, we're gonna have fun tonight. Everyone separate. Who cares? We're not gonna plan it.
Yeah.
I've never seen humans act like that.
No.
Especially, like even people who don't know each other would not act that weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm
I found
assuming
it
that
kind
was
of
all intentional. I'm assuming it was supposed to be really stupid.
Well, right. There's like two things that are to do in horror movies is you always have to create either like confusion and you have to separate people,
Mhm.
right? Because that's how you can handle. Oh, well, and now modern movies, you have to find a way so cell phones don't work. Because like it's amazing. Like I forget there was a screenwriter who specifically she writes horror movies, and she was saying the hard and with romantic comedies. She's like cell phones make it so hard because you just bridge that thing. Like if you need to call someone, you need to reach out at that moment. And as opposed to those stories, you always have to have that breaking point where someone's isolated, alone, and confused. You know, so you can really bond with those characters, and that's why this was, I assume, all done.
Yeah.
You know.
Signal. It's always signal.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
just lose the phone. Yeah.
Yeah.
But-
Before I'm going to forget, because I know I forget this, Emily, of one thing she didn't do, which I thought she would have, the only talent I think that character would have, is obviously she's obsessed with her phone.
Mhm.
And immediately when they're like, oh, I'm running out of battery life, I thought she was immediately going to take her phone going, I got this. You go to airplane mode and you get like 8 more hours out of your battery. So we can flashlight this all night long. And instead, 20 minutes, oh, our flashlight's dead. And you're like, I would expect these teenage kids to know immediately, airplane mode, safe power to turn on your light. You're fine for the whole night. But nope, they just let their batteries die.
No.
Stupid.
Stupid
And
kids.
especially Emily. Because they actually, in fairness to her character, they didn't give her one thing that made her remotely skilled or interesting. I guess she's the pretty girl, but
Emily?
I guess I don't know. I'm trying to think of like what are the quality of like the stock
Jessica was the
characters.
pretty girl. Jessica was like the pretty girl. Emily was like the bitch.
If you told me, I was like, who's the pretty girl? All of them?
That's true.
Yeah, they made all the characters like
Like-
the typical like attractive type characters, and I was like,
I don't think
Like,
is there any
Jessica
character in there? Is like there's the one Screech. Like they were all hot.
Josh
like,
was
everyone.
the closest thing to Screech, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, the closest thing.
I don't know. Josh was like the cool guy with like family problems. Jessica was like the hot girl who had like secretly had low self-esteem, but nobody knew. Like I don't. It's like always a thing.
Classic teenager.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I kind of the first like did they release this game all at once, right? It wasn't like episodic where they released one chapter after the next, right? Okay.
Yeah, but it made it seem like they released them in chapters.
Yeah, because the way that they did, like, between every single one, it was like, oh, you watch this one now, you can finish and turn off the game or whatever and come back and they'll give you the... Oh,
Which
this
I really
happened
liked
this time.
that.
Yeah. So that was... I got confused because I thought maybe they were doing episodic stuff. I was like, some of these chapters, like the first ones, you wouldn't really get much out of if you just played the one chapter and you're like, okay, I'm done. You had a couple of choices and I'm going to take a break now. Nothing really too scary besides a little minor, oh, we're starting up the story. So that's the only complaint I would have about the chapter thing, is because I would want it to start off scary as soon as it started and like make you invested in it. I wasn't invested after the first chapter, but
Well, the chapters thing worked for me because I think that's why I kept playing it. I would have probably stopped at some point beforehand because I was getting through the chapter and I was like, oh, it's done. Let's see where this one's going to go. And next thing I'm like, I might as well finish it. And then, let's see where this chapter goes. I might as well finish it. And I did that for like 6 chapters in a row.
okay, I gotcha. What else was interesting about this game that really stood out? I mean, I can't think of really too much, to be honest with you.
So
Right,
how did you guys react to when everybody kept bringing up, Hannah died, be more sensitive and things like that? How did you guys react to that? Were you nice and you played the nice guys, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was pretty nice about stuff.
Every single time someone said something like that, like, be more sensitive to this person. Hannah died last year, and it was like, deal with it. It's not a big deal. Or when they're like, this
People
prank hurt
die
her.
all the time. It's like, whoa, that's harsh.
Yeah, I just kept telling him it was just a prank. It's not a big deal. Nobody cares. She was overreacting.
yeah. And
It was just a prank. Jeez.
just a prank.
2 people died. It was a prank. You
didn't need to run outside.
You need to get over yourself.
It was such a weird like beginning to like when they did the whole prank thing. I don't know. Is there any scene, any kind of like, let's all hide? I can't even imagine that even happening. We're all gonna hide in a closet or under the bed and like all have our cameras out. And the dude's gonna be okay.
In modern YouTube record stuff, prank shit, absolutely. My first thought when I saw that scene was how glad I am that I grew up without having cell phone access like this. Because I'm like, I don't know how much stupid shit I would have done. Like, not like that, but just ways to prank people and record it and then sabotage stuff, especially when that age, it's easier to just be meaner to people because you kind of don't realize how fucking harmful a lot of that stuff is. I mean, there are people who grow up and they're just become monsters, but
yeah,
you know, it's kind of like the thing, you know, aspects of growing up. I didn't even think that I feel like was the most reasonable thing of the story.
Okay.
That they were like, set this girl up. Well, no, there's a whole bunch of movies that are essentially that thing, right, Nick? I know you're better about like just take what is it like
April Fools that's like just a string of those things.
Yeah. Like isn't even She's All That? It's like take the least popular quote ugly girl in school, the really popular like football player is supposed to like treat her like he's in love with her, but it's all a setup to just break her heart. But then the trick was he actually fell in love.
Yeah.
But there's a whole series of movies like that. Like I find them kind of detestable, but
yeah, I don't know. I just because in the end, you know, Mike turns into like this really good guy that wants to like risk his life to save everyone. It just didn't feel.
But you didn't have to be that Mike, right, Nick?
No. Yeah. Mine was kind of a jerk most of the time.
Oh, okay.
And then he died at the very end.
He died. Yeah, his death was pretty funny to me. Because he just like it blows up and he just falls and his body just sits there on fire and it's like all pixelated video game kind of stuff. I don't know. It just looked weird. It was so it was just goofy.
So I looked for totems for like the whole game. I missed 3 or 4 totems, but I was really actively trying to find all of them and all the items. I think I missed 2 or 3 items. Did you find the totems helpful at all at any point during the game?
I mean, they put you into a situation and they're like, oh, something like this is going to happen. But I never felt like they were like, okay, well, you know what the right choice is. It's always just like, here's some sort of future that could exist and doesn't really tell you how to get there.
Which is kind of good, right? It's supposed to give you a glimpse. It's like you get 1 second into the future, maybe.
But what does it do if it doesn't do anything for you? Like,
yeah, I would have liked, like, for example, the totem where Mike dies because the house explodes and he's on fire. The totem that you watch is just him on fire. So you don't really know when that's going to happen in the whole thing. I would have liked maybe just a little more context on some of those totems, just so like they seem like secret items that you had to go out of your way to find, and I want them to be a little bit more useful.
I mean, like one of the totems was, hey, the one of them's going to reach through the bars and try to hit you. Yeah. All right. I mean, I already expect that. Then there's another one where it's like, oh, well, they're going to run through the theater area. Okay. So what does that really do for me?
I mean, it depends on the totem, right? Well, so there was death totem, there was a fortunate totem, there were warnings, and so depending on what kind of totem you get, helped you out. Was supposed to help you out.
I mean, if I got one that showed Ashley dying, maybe I wouldn't have had her die. So
yeah.
I went with almost everything. If I failed, I would die. That's what I assumed. This is everything that if I messed up, I would die. That's what I thought it was, because I barely messed up anything until it happened once or twice, and I was like, okay, well, I guess it's not that bad.
When I was talking to my coworker today, and I think he said I think there's like series, and when you have like 5 in a row, you just have to pass like 3 or 4 of them. Like you can make mistakes. I didn't make any mistakes. Actually, that's not true. I made one mistake because I didn't realize it even popped up on the screen. Like I was, watching TV. I was on the TV and I was staring at it. It was like fail. I'm like, oh, I didn't even look down to see that it was time for me to interact with it. The time I failed.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about some of the clues? Because I know that some of the clues I thought were ridiculous they were clues. It'd be like you pick up a picture and it'd be like picture of Hannah Halloween last year. This is clue number 6. And I'm like, what does that help me? It doesn't even tell me about her as a character. It's just like a picture of I don't
There were
get
a handful of the clues. I was like, all right, maybe it's like a jigsaw piece. It's like the one piece where you're like, it's just the solid color, and you're like, I need more context because right now you ain't doing me anything.
Yeah.
Oh, I would say so. I didn't do what you did, Nick. I didn't take a super slow. I probably only finished with. I looked at it was about half the totems, half the clues, half the everything. But
I had
well,
maybe
that was
like
something
4
I
totems.
didn't like actually. That I would say towards the end, I just stopped caring about the clue stuff or even the totems because you would. It was so consistent that it started annoying me. You would have a choice. You would see like a hallway to your right, but since you know the game will tell you to go right, just go the other direction or go to the room in the other direction, which doesn't look like a room to go in. And then you would go in here and you're like, oh look, here's a clue, and then you would see here's another obvious choice. The quote I'm gonna call it hidden way is gonna have a clue. And by the end, I was like, can we mix this up a little bit? This is kind of annoying me. Because it was like that through almost the whole game. Like it was pretty repetitive.
I think almost every clue and every totem was just go off the beaten path and you'll find something cool.
Yep. Here's where we want you to go, but you can actually go the other direction for a clue over and over and over. It was like, I don't know. But clearly there was ones you missed. You actually were paying more attention and trying to get everything. So there must be a couple sneaky clues.
I was, and there was a bit of information in there about the miners. I thought those clues were helpful because you didn't learn anything about them at all unless you were reading the clues.
Yeah.
For the most part. So like I enjoyed those, but yeah, there were a bunch of useless ones too.
And then you learned from the clues that the Wendigos were real, like pretty quickly. Like you're like, oh, these there are real monsters out here. It's not just because even like right, you're trying to piece together the horrible. There's like all the bad things that are happening at the lodge, and then there's the bad things happening in the mine, and you know there's a person. You're like, there's no way this person is doing all of this at the same time, like unless they're just teleporting, which they weren't. Yeah. Like they were having a real horror movie, and then the slasher was happening at the lodge. The fake slasher, I guess should say, was happening at the lodge.
Yeah,
and the horror movie was happening in the mines in the mountain.
Josh put them in like quite a few dangerous situations that they could have just accidentally got hurt in, and at the end he's like, "Wait, she's dead? What? What is going on here?"
Yeah. He did a lot of stuff that I put everything he did to mental illness. I mean, that's just what it was. He's had some issues going on. He wasn't taking his medicine, and it was just he was out of whack. So everything that he did was just stupid and ridiculous. I could excuse it because that was just part of his character. He just
just wacky and wild and sad.
Yeah.
Where did Josh end up in your playthrough?
At the end?
Yeah.
I think it's standard for him to turn into a Wendigo and kill 2 people. I think that's the forced ending, no matter what, isn't it?
I don't think so.
Did he kill 2 Wendigo for me?
He didn't mind. He turned into a Wendigo for sure, but he.
I guess you could shoot him.
Like,
I don't know.
It's like 2 cops show up or 2 policemen of some kind, or like doing. It's kind of like the investigation after it, because it's like the post-credit scene, and then he clearly is like turning into one.
That's after Hannah takes him. Yeah.
I thought there was supposed to be a way that you could save him, but I couldn't figure it out, and when I looked it up, it all pointed to that. But I guess there's a point where you could probably kill him. I didn't actually look that up because I didn't shoot him when you had the gun, and it was, I assumed that there was going to be there had to be at least 1 or 2 decisions where you could have just killed him, but I don't know what those were. But
yeah, I don't know either.
But so
well, that's oh, go on.
I was just going to ask Nick. You seem kind of confused about the Wendigo thing, him turning into a Wendigo. Did that not happen?
No, I just didn't remember it. No, I remember it now. Is it the post credits thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
So I was curious about Hannah's thing, because I think that's supposed to be a really big reveal that Hannah actually ended up turning into a Wendigo because she ate her sister, I guess, when she was stuck in the mines. But I'm like, couldn't she have got out of the mines? There's like a lot of ways out of here. Like no, we just easily fell in here and we easily got out. the stranger? Like, what's going on?
No, she couldn't figure out how to get that lift working because she couldn't figure out how to make electricity work. And
Well,
then
then
she was
who
just,
dragged her in there? Because the mine, if they fell down and hit her head, what dragged her into the mine? Because it wouldn't have been.
The stranger grabbed her, both of them, and just threw them in. I'm making all this up. I don't know, and just threw them into the hole that had the cave in it, and that's where. And Hannah broke her leg, and then she couldn't move, and she was just sitting next to her buried sister.
She was concussed.
She turned alive, and she ate her. That she watched the movie.
She buried her, then dug her up.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So that's the part that was a little bit goofy, because even if she was like broken leg and messed up, how did she bury her, then dig her up? And not.
Well, I'm making up
a really big spoon.
I guess.
Yeah. Perseverance. Well, then she gets the
She was there for like 30 days, I think. Didn't her journal say something like day 30 or I don't know?
Yeah, it was like a lot of days. Like there was a lot of phrase in this game of "I've never been so hungry." Written on the walls, written in journals, just all over the place.
Yeah. I was gonna say, if she had a thermos with her, then she would be able to do tons of different stuff. You got.
What's that reference?
That's more. It does you. So the Adam Sandler Halloween movie, that's piece of crap that's on Netflix right now. That I don't know what audience.
FwB Halloween.
Yeah,
what's it called?
Thermos that he uses as a shovel and like as a flashlight. And
you watched it?
Yeah, I wanted to see what the hubbub was, and
you know what it is.
I don't know what audience that movie's written for, to be honest with you, because like it has a bunch of like middle school level jokes in it that are for like middle school kids, and then it also has like some raunchy jokes in it that are like totally for adults. I don't know who's watching.
Well, that also is good for middle school, high school kids. So
like some stuff.
Actually, from my understanding, like that's why Netflix is. That's why they've like Adam Sandler. They've given him like an entire dump truck's worth of money. And he's their number one star for sure. And it's, I think, targeted as the early teen middle school zone. That he's incredibly popular. Which if you watch his movie, it sounds like do you think we were like his movie and we're like 8th grade, 9th grade? Probably.
Yeah, maybe.
You know what's funny? Adam Sandler.
He has his lane and he crushes it.
I didn't actually watch almost any of his Netflix movies. I don't think I watched any of them. I might have watched one. But I did watch the Uncut Gems, which wasn't on Netflix.
That's not really one of. I mean, I guess it is one of his movies, but like, it's not the.
That's not his movie. That's the movie that he's in.
Productions.
A movie he's in that he isn't a horrible actor, right?
No, he's just not doing his.
Yeah, he's not doing
Adam
his stick.
Sandler production. Adam Sandler character. That's like he's in someone else's movie, being someone else.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
He's
So. I don't know. If he did more serious stuff, I might enjoy his movie.
Punch Drunk Love is pretty good. That's one of my favorites.
The which one?
Punch Drunk Love.
I don't know if I've watched that. Is that a Netflix one?
No.
I don't think so. It's a Paul Thomas Anderson movie.
This came out before Netflix.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I don't know. All right. There was one other question I had about Until Dawn and the scenarios and everything. With Matt and Ashley, when the tower fell down, well, you wouldn't know this at all, Nick, but when the tower fell down and they both went down, you had the choice of trying to keep saving her or jump off. I eventually jumped off.
Ashley was you jumped?
Well, I mean, it did it once, and I was like, okay, I'll stay and try to save her. Then it was like, oh, it's about to fall, oh no, and then it was. Did it again. I was like, well, I guess I could stay and die with her. That might be what's going to happen. Or I just jump off. And so I jumped off and she fell. And she hated me. Like at the end, she was like,
that was mine. I immediately, first chance I got, goodbye, Emily. I'm gone. So I jumped.
I'm wondering if you could actually stay on there and you both fall and then you kind of venture together.
So I don't know if I read this. Because I tried looking up to seeing what some of the branching paths were. I think Matt dies there. If he stays to save Ashley, he will die. Yeah.
Did you guys use the flare gun? Because I got a totem where Emily gave the flare gun to Matt, and then when I was Emily and Matt was dead, I got the flare gun, but I never did anything with it.
I never
No,
had a
in
flare
mine
gun.
it did. You just shoot it off, and they're like, "Hope that does something," and that's it.
Okay.
That's
Oh.
literally it. You shoot it in the air. It's like maybe somebody will see it.
I wouldn't be surprised if you have some kind of forking path where you actually use the flare gun on a Wendigo, because that would be like perfectly in line.
Mm-hmm.
I never had a flare gun. Because like every chance, like even in the beginning where you get those like butterfly paths where it's like choose, like Matt had to choose Emily's side or Jessica's side. I was like, always choose whatever, because Emily was such a bitch.
Yeah.
Like so hyper aggro the whole time that I was trying to drive a wedge in their relationship, and so she never did anything.
So you know
for
what
me.
was when she fell from the tower, and she has her leg stuck in that hook, and she just kind of swings over. I had to give her a little bit of props for that, because that's a little intense.
And if she didn't end up with a completely broken ankle,
Yeah.
like catching like that, you're like, all right, you're made of a little bit of steel.
Yeah,
Like,
I just you don't your leg doesn't shred. You just kind of hang there like a piece of meat, and you're able to swing your body over and somehow make it to the other side.
yeah, it was the one
Wait.
Tomb Raider moment we got.
Yeah.
So the tower falls. Is it the stranger that snips the wiring? The cable that holds the tower in place?
I think that was what they were trying to convince you, but
Yeah.
it wasn't.
Because he like saves her.
I
at
also
some
thought,
point.
would one cable go in the whole tower? And you're like, this tower is like pretty faulty. Like,
I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
the
I
Wendigo
was very
came and did
confused.
it. I thought it was the Wendigo eventually did, but they were trying to trick you to make you think it was the stranger.
Yeah,
You
I
think
think
I'm
I'm with you,
like,
Nick.
what
I thought it was the slasher who cut it, but then later you
Yeah.
realized it couldn't have been because he's technically helping you. But I don't know.
You
When I was
know-
like, I guess it's the Wendigo, but I didn't
think
like
he's-
that.
I think he cut it. I think he thought that was like the new Wendigo headquarters, and he wanted to kill them all. So he didn't know Emily was up there.
Maybe. Yeah.
Actually, yeah, he's like, guys, I wasn't trying to kill Matt. I was
For
trying
some
to take
reason,
out
I was
Emily."
going up and banging on the door, and when I realized I couldn't get up there, well, I'm just going to cut it down. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot. They were getting
Oh,
chased, and
yeah.
there must have been a Wendigo
Yeah.
who was smart enough to cut down the tower.
I fucking wouldn't pick.
I thought I saw clippers too. I thought I saw like a cable cutter come in. So the Wendigo must have learned how to use. Tools.
No, Wendigo, their hands can like decapitate like Ginsu knives.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
they're
okay. Yeah.
so we just little swoop.
Must have.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
I
it's
thought
like
I saw a
that's
cable
like
cutter
cutting
as
butter
well.
for them.
I wish that this game would have had actual running, because I held down L1, and like I felt like I never really moved that much.
I
faster.
actually I did the
0.1%
same.
more. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would let go to see what regular walking was like, and you're like, oh, it is slower. We'll speed it up 20%.
Yeah. They were pretty shitty runners. I'm trying to think of some other moments in the game. This would be the downside to me playing it a week and a half early, but did you guys have any moments where you're playing it and you're just like, it's still kind of in your head a little bit, like that scene happened and it kind of stuck with you a little bit?
Not in the way you would think. I kept thinking when they get to the creepy ass lodge in the middle of night, and Sam, who I liked, but has the great plan of, you know what, I'm going to take a bath, a creepy bath. And then you're just like, what is going on right now?
Was she in that bath for like hours?
Well, at that point, I think she's probably only in it for an hour. But even then, I was like, do you know how long it would have taken to heat up the water to get like actually hot water for a bath? We're looking at hours here. This is not one of those, those like those hot water heaters we just turn on instantly, heats it up and then turns it down.
Mm-hmm.
But this is like old school boiler. It's going to take forever. That was a pretty stupid move. I was like, this is weird. Like, also, I kind of liked her because that means like she's brave. She's like, I don't give a shit. Like,
so I like the fact that they called out, because she gets out of the bath and then she starts like, she puts on the towel and she starts walking around, and it's like this typical like horror thing, half naked girl walking around getting ready to be attacked, and then eventually she wants to change and she's like, dude, I can't like run around in this thing. And I was like, okay, they pointed it out at least.
Well, I kept impressed because when I wrap a towel like that, I can't even go to the other room without it holding up. It always falls off. And she was full wrapped and was doing gymnastics. And you're like,
yeah,
she knows how to wrap a towel. I need to ask Sam how to do it because I can't wrap a towel to stay on for any length of time.
How come the hero's cheerleader was your favorite, Brian?
I don't know. She just seemed the least bitchy, and she seemed like, I would say, like kind of grounded with everyone in the whole situation. And I don't know. She just seemed like not like any of the other people. Like it seemed like someone you actually could be friends with, which sounds stupid when I say that out loud.
We're gonna be friends with Sam.
No, you're just saying like, oh, she doesn't seem like a bad person.
Yeah.
She was adventurous. She was interesting, and she wasn't dumb. And she didn't pick. I mean, I probably could have made choices with her to create, but I didn't even remember having choices to be like, oh, let's make Sam piss everyone off.
I mean, I think, was it her that looked at the phone for Chris?
Yeah, I did that.
Yeah. I think that was the evilest thing that she did, I guess.
Yeah, and like, dude, if my phone started ringing and you were in the room and you grabbed it, and even you're like, hey, Brian, your phone. You're like, what the fuck you doing? You touching my phone? You're like, your phone's ringing and you weren't here. Really, it's not like, what are you doing? I'm going through your messages. It's like, I don't like you, Chris.
Yeah. I mean,
is there a way that...
Go ahead.
Can you save Sam when she's getting chased down like the basement? Can you save it so she doesn't get captured? Or is she always going to get captured regardless?
I think it's the different stages you get caught, but I think you're always going to get captured.
Mm-hmm.
Because I kept like running and not hiding, and I didn't know if there was a point where maybe I should have done the opposite, and maybe it would just skip some scenes, and I would have been fine.
I got caught when I was hiding on one spot, but I had a feeling, I was like, I think this is just...
I can't remember what I ended up with her. I probably took it as far as it could go.
I just keep thinking it running and hiding is like the Rick and Morty thing where he's like, you can run, but you can't hide, bitch. And he's like, wait a minute. Maybe we should actually try to hide. He's saying we can't do it. Maybe we should do it. And then it works.
Maybe we can hide. Well, because the hiding works for Jessica in the end when she's just like completely broken. It's like, go run or hide. And you're like, girl can't even walk. She's like,
I did the hiding thing, I think, most of the time. I tried to do the hide thing because they just walk past you and all you gotta do is hold the controller there, and that wasn't hard for me. So
I liked Josh, and I liked a lot of Josh's dialogue actually. Well, I liked his dialogue when he got caught and he was revealed and he was in that shed or that other area with Chris and Matt or Chris and Mike when they're gonna kill him. Like when he's all tied up, he has like a couple lines, and I don't know the exact references of them. I want to say one of them's from Psycho, but he's like, "Yo, we all go a little crazy" and stuff like that. There's like a lot of like little lines here and there that he drops, and I think he does it really well. But I think that's just the actor who is like really good at delivering the lines.
Yeah. That's Rami Malek. Yeah. Well, that's I think we mentioned it earlier. That's how I knew he was the villain, because when they had the first voice modulate, I don't know, because I mentioned that because I watched all of Mr. Robot. That when you heard his voice modulating, you're like, oh, that's Rami Malek. Oh yeah, he's totally the guy doing this because that's his voice. Like very familiar with his voice. Yeah. But I think when the game came out, he wasn't as big of a deal. I think that was probably 2 seasons of Mr. Robot. What?
Was he not? I thought he was.
No, because at that point, like, it's like before Mr. Robot hadn't. Mr. Robot's still not like the most popular show, but if you watched it, you usually pretty much liked it. It wasn't until he did the Oscar for the Queen movie. What was that movie called?
Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah. So that's I think when he became public conscious. Like,
I thought Mr. Robot was when he was popular. I thought that's when he like.
If you go look at the ratings of Mr. Robot, it was not a very big show.
But I think that this.
I mean, I loved it, but
right.
It probably came out at the height of Hayden's career, though. I bet you she was probably doing the best she possibly could in Hollywood at the time.
Who?
I mean, she had done Heroes. The girl Sam.
Hayden Panettiere.
Oh, I actually didn't recognize her
Or
at all.
Panettiere, yeah.
She did like 2 or 3 teen movies. She was like getting pretty popular, and I think that's when they inserted her into this game.
Well, her life has like some really weird drama. If you
I
look
don't know
it up,
anything
it's
about
really
her
strange.
actual life.
Yeah, because like she married a Russian boxer who was like the world heavyweight champion for a long time, and then I mean, I only know this because I looked up. I was like, I haven't seen her in anything, and because she hasn't done anything for the last 3 years. Like, arguably, this was the last thing she did, and then there was weird arguments where she got married to a Russian, and if they go to Russia, like would she be like let like out of Russia, like or they had a kid and we're not. Anyways, there's some weird stuff going on there that I don't really understand. But she recently was in a relationship with someone, and like he filed that she'd been like had like domestic abuse stuff, like severe stuff for a year and a half or 2, which was really bad.
The man was abused, or she was?
She was abused. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, it was like a quick read because, like, I haven't seen her in anything in a really long time. And then the last, like, it looks like if you just do like a quick glance of her, like the personal life stuff and then what she's been in, the last 5 years of her life looks like it's been pretty rough. So
that sucks.
Yeah, that's too bad.
Yeah,
I like her as an actress. Actually, I think she fits like the roles that she plays. I think she fits them like perfectly.
I mean, I didn't watch Heroes at all, so I absolutely had no clue who she was.
But like, she looks like the kind of character that if you need an archetype of a filling, she like an American like blonde girl that fits like all these roles. She just slots perfectly in numerous ones, But
okay.
Oh, I know something. Did you guys ever go to Did you ever just put your controller down and walk away for a little bit and come back and get like an up close picture of someone's face?
Yeah.
And like there was something weird about physics with this game because it wasn't like they just stood there. They constantly like just little movements all the time, and they couldn't just sit still and do nothing.
Yeah. I when I saw that, I was wondering if that was something to do. The first time I saw it, I was like, is this part of the game where something's going to come up behind me? Because it has that feeling, like the way that they show it. It's like something's going to come over your shoulder or something's going to pop up behind you, which I thought was pretty cool. But there's something else. I was going to say, we said this a little bit earlier, but I am fairly disappointed how badly Matt got shafted for most of the game.
Oh yeah, that is one of my, if not my greatest criticism of the game.
Yeah.
Like granted, they didn't have to do the stupid like the token minority is the first person who gets killed. Like I fucking hate that trope.
It was Nick's game. Yeah.
Mine, he made it.
Yeah.
But he got completely iced out of most of the game, unfortunately.
Yeah, I was like, why would that happen? Because they just stopped that part of the story for most of the game, and they just went straight back.
It's like they wanted to have the original characters that were there a year beforehand, and I was like, why couldn't Matt have just been there also a year before and swap out, like, make Ashley the new girl who shows up? I don't know, whatever you want to do. But I thought it was pretty dumb.
Yeah. I mean, Ashley kind of got the shaft a little bit too. Not as bad as Matt, but she disappeared for quite a lot of the game.
Yeah.
It is funny because they teamed them up together, at least at the end of my story. They teamed them up together and they're trying to get out together. It's like, oh, the two characters that just kind of got forgotten about. They're like, let's wrap them up real quick.
Got forgotten about for a while because, and at least Jessica got captured, and then like 4 chapters later, oh, here she is. She's here again. Let's move on.
Yeah, I think on mine she dies in like what, chapter 2 or 3? You think she's dead, and then she doesn't show up till 9. She's gone. Yeah. She's like a way late reveal. So I guess there is something. So do you know when Chris and the stranger are going out to get Rami Malek's character, and then they run in, the stranger gets killed, and then Chris has his sort of like, gun smoke fighting his way back in, that there is a point that if you I must not have done this one, Nick, that if you piss off Ashley enough or make a couple choices where you basically the gun thing, that's what it is. Did you guys all have Chris put the gun to himself?
I did. I was thinking about Ashley, but I actually did
Chris.
Chris.
Nick, you would have had so if you You didn't even try to be the most antagonistic person there is.
I know. Yeah, I definitely
I
made
realized
Chris
that
shoot
one
himself.
afterwards.
Yeah, so if you put it on Ashley in that scene when he comes back to the door, she doesn't open the door for you, and then you just get ripped apart by Wendigos.
Is it?
So yeah,
I just
Fair.
know, like, I was kind of a jerk to her as Chris for the whole thing, but I did pick myself. But I was a jerk to her, and then she was still like in love with me. I didn't understand it. She was
mine
still
wasn't
do
really in
the-
love with me. I treated it like he was super in love with her and was gonna always just teenage. I will choose you. Like even then, like here's my best friend, but I have my crush. Sorry, best friend. Teenage crush got to be saved. Like I chose all of those. So.
Yeah. I think that's how it's supposed to play out. I was trying to think if there's anything else that, because I'm just reeling through my mind on the game as much as I can. Isn't the psychiatrist? What's that actor's name? The guy that
I only know him from American Gods. He plays a like Eastern European god that smashes
isn't he in
people
Reservoir
with a big old
Dogs? Isn't he that
sledgehammer.
one actor in Reservoir Dogs?
He's not in Reservoir Dogs.
No.
I fairly close to certain.
Let's see, Reservoir Dogs. Because I thought it was the one guy that shows up in that movie, and I just completely may have been mixing him up with someone else. And I'm looking it up right now. I'm gonna find out because I don't want to. Is it Tim Roth? Is that the guy?
No, it's not Tim Roth.
Hold on. Okay.
Tim Roth is also in Pulp Fiction.
Okay. That's maybe who I was confusing him with. Was Tim Roth?
Yeah, he's Honey Bunny, where it's called Honey Bunny in the opening of.
What?
In Pulp Fiction, the opening scene where they're robbing the diner, like there's the couple.
Yeah.
And she keeps calling him Honey Bunny.
That's right.
Oh, the writer played the voice of the stranger.
Okay.
Oh,
That's kind of cool.
Yeah. A little neat tidbit there. Yeah.
No, I didn't know if the stranger. I'm probably reading it into it too much, but the fact that they called him out as the stranger, I thought maybe was a reference to like Halloween when they called him out as the Michael Myers wasn't Michael Myers, it was the shape. So it would just giving him some like a general name. I thought that it might not have been a reference at all.
The what? I don't remember that.
In the movie Halloween, the first one from '78, he was cast as the shape in the credits.
Oh.
It's not Michael Myers in the credits.
Oh, okay. Well, you know what? I need to ask you, how are your horror movies going for this month, Nick? Have you been watching a lot?
I've been watching a lot of TV. Like I mentioned, I watched Dark, and I just finished Watchmen, and I'm watching what is it? Haunting of Bly Mansion right now, just because I feel
That's
like
the
I
thing,
have to.
I haven't watched it, but I heard it was good, so I don't know.
I didn't really like Haunting of Hill House that much, but
Really?
it's the same. It's the same writers and like similar cast, and I give it a shot. And it's no worse than like American Horror Story. So, and I watched every season of American Horror Story.
You know what's funny? That show, when it first came out, I was watching it, and I watched, and this is a spoiler for anyone who hasn't watched it, I guess, the very first episode of it, at least. Brian, I don't know if you've watched American Horror Story, have you?
I've seen the first season, but
Okay.
like when it aired, I don't even remember anything about it, to be honest.
In the very first episode where it ends with her having sex with the guy in the Gimp costume, for some reason I was like, I'm out. I don't like this.
Oh, you're done at that point.
I was like, I'm done. I don't like adding in weird sex drama horror stuff going on. And I was like, I just, and she gets pregnant. I'm just like, all right, I think I'm not interested in the drama that's going to be involved in this.
I actually wanted American Horror Story to be. I wish that it wasn't on like primetime cable television. I wish that it was like done by like HBO or some other independent. That it could do more and have a darker rating, like a I don't know, like a rated R, but they're so tame for the stories that it's trying to show.
It was the first
anyway.
horror anthology show, though. It's kind of what kickstarted everything.
Oh,
because
absolutely. No, I have mad respect for it, and like I love the idea, but there are some seasons that are just so unbelievably corny. It's tough to watch it, but I made it through all of them. Anyways, the movies I probably only watched like 6 or 7 movies, horror movies. And Brian mentioned them to me. I watched some Amazon parties with the 2 Welcome to the Blumhouse movies, The Lie and Black Box.
Okay.
Both of those are like no good, but like it's fun watching them with like a bunch of people who are commenting on it the whole time if it's not a good movie, because then at least you're feeding off of each other and having a good time.
Okay. I've only been watching. I haven't actually been watching a lot of horror stuff, and we're going off of the topic of game. I guess we can go back to it whenever. But sorry for everyone who's watching this. It's like, what the fuck are they talking about now? But that's just what it is, man.
So upset.
Yeah, I need that. You know what? In the beginning of the show, I need to just start it off with, "Hey, we're just a bunch of guys that have no clue what the fuck we're talking about," and that's literally what you're listening to. I keep forgetting to say that. So sorry for anyone who thought that this was some expert opinion about Until Dawn. But I've been watching Fargo. So I never watched it. I never watched the first movie when it came out. I guess the one that was in the 90s.
Yeah, the Coen brothers.
Yeah. And then I watched it, and I was like, yeah, this is pretty good. Oh, there's seasons. And now I've watched season 1 and season 2, and I'm on season 3 right now.
Yeah, I know it's one of the most like respected television shows of the last decade. I haven't seen it, but I know it's like very well respected.
I haven't seen it either. But each season's a standalone, right?
Each season is standalone. Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, they have references to the movie and they have references to the other seasons between each season, like, but they're independent in their own right. But there's little Easter eggs and stuff that go back and forth. Because I mean, it jumps around in timeline too. So.
I mean, to bring it full circle for you, Mark, the guy who plays Dr. Hill in Until Dawn, he plays a character in Fargo.
Yeah, in the movie. Right? Yeah. I thought that was Tim Roth. I guess it's not Tim Roth. I don't know.
What's his name? Peter something?
Yeah, Peter Stormare.
The thing, what was it that I was going to say? Fargo has so many actors in those seasons that are just like popular, like they got real popular, and you're just like, okay, they're here because I recognize them as an actor. It just feels weird. Like I recognize almost like the casting. They have the main characters. They have a few main characters, and they have like, oh, I can't even tell you the name of the actors because I don't want to like give away anything. But you would recognize.
Well, I know. I think isn't Chris Rock like a detective in the latest season?
I think I've seen that, but I haven't seen that season. So
I thought that was interesting. Season 4, Chris Rock.
Yeah. But they have some actors in there that are just like they're very popular, and they're like, you see them and you're like, they have this one type. This is who they are when you see them. You can't separate them from who they are when they did that one thing before. But they just try to fit them in there. I think that's just for fun and to give these actors something else to mess around with. Everyone's like, yeah, I'll love to work on Fargo. Yeah, throw me in there. I'll do whatever. I think that's what it turned out to be. But I don't know. It's weird to think about. I'd like you guys to watch it. I would like you guys to watch Fargo and see those seasons. Because it's on Hulu.
Have you seen Watchmen? So I know Brian has.
Yeah, I've watched it. So have we all watched Watchmen?
The TV show? Just so we're clear, the TV show,
TV
not
show?
the movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have all watched it here.
I just finished it, yeah.
Okay. So anyone watching this, we're gonna talk about Watchmen for a second.
Mark's like, I've been waiting for a year to talk about Watchmen.
Have you? Okay, so we don't have a lot of time to talk about Watchmen, but we can spend some time on it. I don't want to like keep Nick up until midnight, but I'm happy to talk about Watchmen for a second.
Oh no, I was just curious. I'm sure I don't know your opinion, Mark, but I'm just gonna guess that you thought it was a great show because I don't know. I haven't met a single person who thought that it wasn't just phenomenal. So I guess just from like the obvious things, I I adored the transitions, the scene transitions that they had. Some of them were just absolutely genius. Like just besides the acting being phenomenal, and just the writing and just everything, just the way the cinematography was amazing.
I'm
Yeah,
trying to
I
think
was
of things to complain about, but there's not really anything. I wouldn't say it. It's really hard for me to put something up as like perfect, but it's one of those things that I would put in a must-watch list. Yeah, you should watch this. This is something that if you're a human being who enjoys good content, then you should watch it.
Yeah, I would put the Watchmen season in like the Mount Rushmore all time classic TV. Like this is in the top 5 of any TV like this competes for me, I think, with any season of television of all time.
I mean,
like it's in that pantheon.
There's
I just can't believe it's so good.
I don't know. There's just when I start judging things, they kind of get to a point to where they hit this threshold of it's not going to be perfect, but it's like the 9.9 and everything just lays there. It doesn't go there's just a whole 100 or so different things that I'm like this is perfect the way they did it, how they intended to show it. They all have their different flaws, but some of them feel like they're purposely flawed in certain ways to make it what you saw and provide that experience. And I feel like this is definitely up there. It's so I can't. When people say top 5 list, I'm like, fuck you. I'm always like, fuck you. There's I can't do a top 5. There's so many things that are really good. Like The Wire is great. This is great. What Chernobyl? I don't know why I say it like
Chernobyl.
that. Chernobyl was
You
great.
say it like you're like share Noble.
Yeah, Chernobyl.
You know,
yeah, I don't know why.
Have you been to the bookstore, Share Noble?
It's a Channing Tatum. I have to say Channing because I can't say his name right if I do it any other way.
Yeah. But then there's
Well, it's like
good.
I was just gonna say I actually agree with you. I don't like the top 10 lists or whatever. I like ranking stuff. You're like, is this an A plus? Is this an A? Because you can have a bunch of stuff be flatline, but you don't have to choose like this is better than that.
Yeah.
It makes for fun lists to read, but it's kind of
always bullshit
intellectually.
to me.
It's
always
it's
like,
really
whatever I can think
stupid.
of. Yeah.
It's like you can start ranking stuff as fair, but it needs to be like flattened out, and you can have like tier systems. I think work more. It's more useful, but even then, some of it's like really stupid because I can give a movie a completely shit rating, but I can be like, oh yeah, there's a scene in there. This moment is one of the greatest things I've seen, but I might give the movie a D. But you're like, but this one thing is kind of incredible. The rest is just completely trash. Which if you see D, you're like, completely useless. But you're like, it's not really fair.
Yeah.
I agree.
But with Watchmen, it's so fucking crazy how much they like hit the nail on the head of everything that was going to come after that show was released. And like it just starts to emphasize all these like issues that were going on within that. Oh, we're actually maybe heading towards a fucked up little world that's similar to this in some way, without the squids falling from the sky and everything. But I mean, maybe there are squids falling from the sky, but that's not what's happening. It's something else that we just don't see. But something just ridiculous
pulled off,
in the
like,
background.
The incredible complex thing because you have an incredibly wide complex cast, and you understand and like, and I say like not in like you want to be friends with them, but they're characters that fit perfectly in the show, like completely across the board. Like they all feel like lived in real characters. The acting across the board, like the set pieces, the design, and just how complex it is. Like if you go back, you're like, oh, the storytelling of Watchmen is incredibly complex.
Right.
Where even at the end you have, I can't think of his name right now, who's on Mars, who turns out he's on the, no, not Manhattan, the other guy who Manhattan puts him there.
Ozymandias?
Ozymandias. That he's like, it's almost kind of like where Game of Thrones pulled off the Daenerys stuff, that he has his own little thing happening throughout almost the entire story and doesn't interact with anyone. And when it all eventually comes together, you're like, chef's kiss. Like they pulled it off.
And
I will say that. What? Go on.
Is there a single character in that show that is dry or just not interesting or just
No, there's
doesn't
not
have
one.
moments? Every character has a moment in it, or tons of moments where you just fall in love with them. You just
Yeah.
want to be. They're just
Well,
amazing.
Well, because like there's every character so interesting that at no point, even with a big ensemble, every scene and every character, you are there for them, and you're never like, I'd rather be over with Ozymandias. I'd rather be doing this, but instead you're like, wherever this is at, I'm in. And then the scene's over, and you go somewhere else, and you're like, but now I'm in, and it just completely has you like magnetized the whole time. I'll tell you though, at the beginning, I liked the show a lot in the first few seasons. I was like, this is pretty good. But I think it was episode 5 where they tell the story of Hooded Justice, and it's the one where what's her name? The main character, Regina King, Angela. She's taken all the memory pills of her great grandfather, whatever. And so she's in that middle of that warp zone, but you're getting the whole story of Hooded Justice. And when he flies through the window, and then you have the police cop kind of be like, "Hey, Angela, can you hear us?" The way it transitions, you're just like, how did they pull this off? I mean, there's like no film that's pulled that off, let alone a TV episode. And you're like, oh, this is one of the greatest shots ever made, like ever. Holy crap. And it was like that point, you're like, oh, we're in all-time television zone. This has not happened in a while. This is something super, super special.
It was weird to see Regina King in there for some reason, because I've always remembered her name from the Boondocks. And so that's always where I saw her. And I was like, okay, now she's in like a really, really awesome, like she's live acting here. And I always just recognize her. Oh, well, this is the person who, did she do the voices, or she wrote episodes for Boondocks? I can't remember.
I don't know. I never watched Boondocks.
Oh, I watched a good bit.
I said here she was voice. I think she was voices. But yeah, she was, Riley and Huey. No, and she's an absolutely incredible like actor.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
That's one of those like where they just, it's unfortunate, when you tend to be like, people of color don't get a lot of really great roles, and they don't get a lot of be put up, up front in a lot of these scenes. And then it's like, it's like, Regina, go. I mean, I remember she's in Beale Street Could Talk, and she's in it just not even that much, and she just absolutely destroys it. And you're like, oh, here is, someone of her talent actually finally getting a role and a scene, like everything about it, like to really showcase her talents. And she just is perfect. I almost want to watch Watchmen again right now. Like even just talking about it.
So Looking Glass and the FBI girl, I forget her name. She was part of the Minutemen as well, long time ago.
Yeah.
But anytime either one of them were talking, I thought it was I could just watch them talk forever. It was like watching Tyrion talk in like Game of Thrones. I was like, I just want to hear what they have to say, every bit of it.
I mean, that was all of them. Like, there was never a moment where I was watching, I was like, I don't care about this. I don't want to know about this. It, like Brian was saying, I was watching, and I was like, okay, I'm being entertained. I'm happy. This is what I want to see.
Yeah. Do you remember? This is something that was confirmed because New York Comic Con was last week, and there was there's a fan theory that was confirmed. So do you know that I'm gonna call him Lube Man?
Oh yeah.
So Mark, do you remember Lube Man? He's like the one who's like real tall and weirdly skinny, and he was running, and he like jumped down on the ground and like slid under the storm sewer. So it has been remarked upon that character is actually. Do you remember the cop that shows up that was like, "Oh, I was a big fan of you. I wrote a dissertation." And he was like hyper obsessed with.
Yeah. Oh, it's him.
That's Lube Man.
That's who I thought it was, but
because it was like, but it all kind of fit in the story, and it kind of always fit, and that's been one of the really popular fan theories. But they actually confirmed that last week. Yeah,
but something happened where it like just time-wise didn't seem to match up, and so like I discounted that. And I was like, maybe I'm just imagining it. I don't know. And I don't think they ever dealt with that. And I guess I didn't keep up with the community talking about it, so I didn't know if that was actually a thing that was a big theory people came up with. But I see it.
Yeah, because actually I was. Did you watch? You weren't watching. Were you watching Watchmen when it aired?
shortly after, like after I think everything was released, and then some time passed, and then I watched. I didn't watch it as it was airing.
Because I
Chernobyl,
remember because I
watched
was
as it
watching
aired,
it while
but-
it was airing, and I think I was the only person in my entire sphere who was watching it. So I like went to every podcast I could find who was covering it, just because I had like no one to talk about it with. And it's like even like with people I generally like, because I tell Nick, I'm like, you gotta watch this. You don't understand. This is like all time television. It's
Well,
so good.
The thing is, when I watched Watchmen the movie when it came out at a time that I was like, this is a shitty movie. I didn't like it. It was really boring, and I didn't enjoy it. And I don't know why. I guess I just wasn't mature enough to be like, oh, I enjoy this type of movie, because it wasn't your typical superhero movie.
No.
It dealt with like a little bit more deeper concepts, and I didn't understand the world that was going on. And I was like, at the end, I was like, all right, cool stuff.
What happened? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, I
don't-
read the comic because I always loved the Watchmen comic. So like I didn't really care for the movie, but it's probably not even the movie's fault. It's just because I'm too enamored with the comic to sort of like there was no fair translation that was going to happen. But also, I don't know if Zack Snyder's all that great to begin with, but that's a whole. Actually, ironically, I think Watchmen's probably his most watchable movie, but he already had the script and the paneling was all laid out for him.
Oh, okay.
So, but
Yeah. So Nick, you thought it was like an amazing show.
I thought it was all right. Yeah.
Okay. Can you think of anything negative to say about it?
No, I don't think so. I can't think of anything at all negative to say about it. I think the writing was tight. There wasn't a moment where I didn't enjoy watching it when I was watching it or look forward to watching it.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I kind of thought this is way more fun and easily digestible compared to like me watching Dark. Dark was I really, really enjoyed and wanted to keep watching it, but man, you had to think when you're watching that thing.
Nope.
This had some moments to it, like this had like with Manhattan, and there was a bootstrap paradox that was thrown in there towards the end as well. So like there were a couple things that were kind of fun that they threw in that were time travel-y and interesting,
But you
but
keep up
for
with
the
it.
most part, let's let the story tell itself and just kind of relax and absorb it. And
Mhm.
I don't know. I thought everything was done. I said like from the beginning, I think a lot of the transitions kind of caught me off guard and were just blown away amazing. I can't think of any completely off the top of my head, but I don't know how many times I would watch a scene transition into another scene, and they would do it in a way that I'd never seen in movies before.
I don't remember the scene transitions that much. I don't know why. I don't remember. I probably enjoyed it a lot more when I first saw it, but it wasn't something that it stuck with me in my head because I was just assuming it was a good show and they had quality people cutting it and editing it, so it made sense. I didn't think about that too much. I don't know.
There was like one where like there was like puddles on the street, and it like kind of pulled away, and it showed just the sheen of the puddles, and that transitioned into like a lake bed into Ozymandias on Europa, and it was just like small little things like that. They would just, I don't know. I just thought great. Like Brian mentioned, the freeze frame where you have her through the glass and things. There's just so many things that were so well shot. You could almost watch it like Euphoria. I thought was also really well shot, another HBO show. And you can watch these things, I think, without volume, and they're just amazing shows without any volume.
I'll have to
And of
remember
oh,
course,
that's right. He was on Europa, not Mars.
Huh?
Yeah.
I forgot. I said he was on Europa, not Mars.
And of course, I like so I do these weird things with shows where I had been watching the trailers for Watchmen for like 2 months before it came out, and I was so excited to watch it. And then when it came out, I didn't watch it, and I knew I was going to like it, so I just waited. But of course, like I was going to be excited. I know, and I would be excited regardless, just because like Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross did the score for it, and I'm like, well, I can't like not watch this, of course. There wasn't anything that I didn't like about it.
Yeah. So I hope that we get some more of that stuff coming soon. But
so the main showrunner who created it and said flat out he's not coming back. Like, because he said, I have a really good idea, and I can do a really great season. And it was only supposed to be one season, but it's super popular. They did a really good job. Now people have never like. There's never been as much hype for Watchmen as there is now. There will be other seasons of this in the future. There's too much money sitting on the table.
Yeah.
I'm scared about that because I don't think the idea of it being as good is close to impossible. You know, it's like Princess Bride. You're like, we don't do another sequel. Don't even. It's like William Goldman said. He goes, I had a great idea. I worked with it. That's why I never wrote a sequel. I never had a second idea. I'm like, let's not touch it. If Goldman couldn't do it, I don't think any of us can.
Yeah. No,
So let it be.
fair. That's fair. I'm trying to think if there is. I mean, unless if you're doing something like Fargo, where you just have a completely different season. That's just like, you just cut it and it's a whole new story.
Yeah. Well, and Fargo is just the original movie. It's just a murder mystery essentially with people.
Yeah.
Right.
And silly Minnesotan stuff.
Yeah. So it's a detective story in a isolated part of the country. It's not typically shown in stories. So if you have a second season, you can just make people be people. You're not stuck with like, a trope or a style.
I mean, that's the thing. That's what makes it so good is that you watch it and you're like, oh, these are people.
But it requires good writing. That's the other thing. If you take out the good writing, the show's like fail. Which is, again, when they talk about that, you're like, well, it's setting. Like, it doesn't matter. If you have good writing, you can do just about anything. But good writing is hard. Like, writing is hard. Writing is very hard.
It is.
Which is another thing we actually, the irony that we think about this when we were talking about Until Dawn. We criticize the writing so much, but you realize like how difficult it is to actually write for a video game because a video game has to do. Oh, that's another aspect of Until Dawn I forgot to mention. That I was kind of surprised with a lot of the key inputs you had to do, and you had to do it enough that you had to really pay attention. That at no point could I just just smash my way through and kind of fall asleep. Yeah. That I was like, I have to be hyperactive and aware the entire time. And I couldn't sleep through anything. And I think that's what kept me so engaged, actually, which is why I'm like, why I like that.
Yeah, it's an adrenaline kind of intense.
I'm in. Even when I think a lot of the story is dumb, man, just imagine what this would feel like if it was really good. Actually, some of it felt like, in respect, kind of like I gotta say it, it's like a Last of Us, but without all of the stuff, all the actual, I was thinking about that when I was playing
without the good writing.
One thing people hate about Last of Us a lot of times is like the crafting. They're like, why are we doing this? Like a lot of people complain about the crafting.
Really?
They're like
I didn't mind it.
No, because it just feels like, why are we doing this? Like, who really cares? Like, I'm going around trying to find like pieces and pieces. You're like, that feels dumb because the story it's so story focused that the crafting elements feel kind of tacked in there to feel gamey. Whereas this is like, fuck it. I'm in the middle.
It's like it's survival-y. That's the point of the game, right? So, and that fits with like most survival games. You play, you craft stuff so you can survive longer. Yeah. I think it fits perfectly.
Yeah, but they didn't overdo it. It wasn't difficult.
I don't mind it. The second half of Last of Us, I just stopped giving a shit. I was like, I'm so sick of going through every fucking drawer and everything. Even if I didn't need it, you're just like, ugh.
So not just because of like the crafting stuff, but just overall in general, I wanted to check everything because I was like, oh, well, I'm going to miss something about the story or one little hint, one little note, one little thing. And I was like, I got to check it no matter what. It's just there. It's just part of it.
That was also one where it's like, I'm running on like hour 12 of playing the game. It's like, you should have taken a fucking break, But
another game that kind of makes you interact with it and it's story driven is like Heavy Rain. There are quite a few points in there where you have to like pay attention and when you play it, and it keeps you engaged.
Who's the developer that did Heavy Rain? They also did like LA Noire, right?
Yeah, well, Detroit Becoming
LA
Human.
Noire is something else, isn't it?
Well, I think it's the same developer.
It's like Beyond Detroit Becoming Human and Beyond something.
I don't know.
Quantum Dream. That's right.
Quantum Dream?
Yeah, so Quantum Dream did Heavy Rain, Beyond Two Souls, and Detroit Become Human.
Yeah, LA Noire was like a Rockstar game or something, I thought.
I kind of always lumped, I don't know why I've always lumped LA Noire with Heavy Rain. Maybe one of the two was constantly being compared to the other.
Maybe. Heavy Rain's super sad. I don't know.
I hope so. Heavy Rain. What's the rain? Your tears.
I
think I
played a
sent
little bit of that one.
that message because the Quantum Dream. There's like a pack where you can get like they upscale. They redid all their games for PS4. You can get it as like one big bundle, pretty cheap. But Heavy Rain's one that's on my like soft backlog. I'm like, I always feel like I should go back and play it. Same with LA Noire.
So I'm
It's a
going to
good
ask you
story.
guys real quick about Amnesia, since that's on my mind a little bit. Did both of you play Amnesia Dark Descent?
I
Nick,
haven't
you
played
haven't?
anything.
I did, but like 9 years ago.
Okay.
Like a long time ago.
It was a good game, but I didn't really enjoy it as much as I thought I would, and I feel like it was overrated.
I had a feeling you had this problem, Mark. If 10 people tell you it's great, you're like, yeah, I don't know. It reminds me of Jerry Seinfeld said, if anyone introduces him in the world's greatest comic, he goes, well, you just fucked over my entire set. Once someone says that, they're like, we'll be the judge of this. Like,
yeah. No, there's that game had a lot of stuff.
And the thing is how much that game inspired across the whole genre, right? It's one of those problems when you go back and play the game that's like inspired all the other games who sometimes iterate and do things better. And you're like, oh, this is the thing? Yeah, it's okay.
I didn't like how there was so much stuff that felt like it was not obvious. Like, maybe I'm stupid. Maybe that's what it is. But some of the stuff just didn't seem like, oh, well, that's what I'm supposed to do. I thought I was supposed to do it a different way that made so much more sense in my head. And it's just like, oh, this doesn't work at all. And then I do it a completely stupider way. And I'm like, I guess this is the solution to this puzzle. Like, instead of using a crowbar, you use a rock to break something.
Yeah.
Or it was just something that it didn't fit.
It's funny, I don't remember that, but that's one of my complaints with a lot of games, which is just sort of like, sometimes if I really take a step back, you're like, why are you not thinking the way my brain's working, game? Like, this is not, you know.
But it happened a lot. It happened enough to where I was annoyed, and I would look stuff up because I was like, I could sit here and waste time, or I could just find out what stupid way was the answer that I would have to just keep clicking on stuff for like an hour before I figured it out. It wasn't like, it didn't feel like they were clever puzzles. I guess that might be the thing. Nothing felt like really clever.
What's funny is when you said that, you're like, they're puzzles. I played it and I'm like, I don't remember a single puzzle. Like, what I remember of that game is I'm like, really? Was there? I guess
you're supposed to solve puzzles to bring your sanity back. I mean, you know, that was
I just don't remember them. Like, I loved the game and everything that I remember, like, I just completely forgot. It's like Spider-Man. We found out the mini game in the Spider-Man. I was like, I guess they were there. I had no idea. Like, if you had to tell me, like, take my brain and sketch out the game, I would have completely just like, Brian, did you even play this? You didn't mention one mini game. Oh yeah. Like, don't remember that at all.
Yeah. So that being said, I really love Soma. And so I'm hoping what they do with Amnesia as we play it at the end of the month, it's going to be closer to Soma than it was.
It's funny. I was disappointed with Soma.
Well, you're a fucking asshole. Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
Well, I was surprised that Soma to me wasn't very scary compared to like Amnesia really like unnerved me. I was like, oh, like I remember having headset on and I would have to take my headset off and be like, okay, if I take off the sound, this is not that bad. But with their sound design was really, really clever and really smart with the way they did a lot of it. So
I honestly played it on my speakers, so that probably gave me not as good of an effect. I know it says
isn't when you start the game they're like put on headphones? That's the way you should be playing this game. I think they tell you that when you start it.
I don't like headphones because I like to be mentally available around. I don't like to be locked in the computer and just be locked into what I'm doing. Like if the dogs do something or Cheryl needs me, I want to be able to hear stuff that's happening around me. Or if Cheryl hurts herself or something, I'm like, oh, I heard that. Let me go do it. Like, I don't know. It just feels weird. I feel like I'm trapped from any situations that are happening around me, and I don't like it. That's me. It is better.
That makes sense. That's what you're supposed to do.
No. Okay.
It's called being a good husband.
I guess
if that's how you want to roll.
I guess that's how I want to roll.
You feel like you're going to the movie theater, you know? You go in, you turn everything off, no one's allowed to bother you. You know, Scout doesn't just come into the theater and be like, hey, can I hang with you? You're like, no, you're at home and not in the movie theater with me. You know? like, hey, honey, I'm going to the theater. Yeah. Don't let anything bother me.
I don't want to be like that. I don't know. I don't know. I
No, no,
understand
I
you
think
get better experience with that, but yeah, Soma was one of those things that like it explored the whole like conscious thing, and like my whole opinion on it is completely different than what it was going for, but it was interesting that they tried to tackle it.
Oh, and I should preface, when I say Soma disappointed me, it I think it's a very good game and I had a great experience, but it didn't give me the same like amnesia like thing that I got from that.
Hmm.
You know, I started being terrified playing Amnesia. I was like, this might be the first horror game that's like literally like getting to me. Like, ugh.
Well, I mean, the thing is, like, it messes with your vision, and you can't really do the whole like, oh, whatever, I'm gonna chase the monster. It doesn't let you really do that.
Well, that was the first horror game I'd ever played. I remember telling Nick about this. I'm like, oh, you can't attack. I didn't realize how helpless that makes me feel, how scared I am. Or like, well, what do? You hide, and then you just hope it goes away.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
you
so
can't even
scary.
look at it. So like, it's that whole thing to like, you just.
And I think I played it right after Dead Space, you know, and then Dead Space, you're like, which is the really scary game, but you're like, but it's something different. I'm like, I just load up on guns and I'm going to shoot you. I have at least some mechanism I can defend myself. But in that other one, wait, how do you defend yourself? You don't cry.
You know, something that I'm going to look forward to after Halloween's over. I love these horror games. I think they're fun, but honestly, I kind of want to
usually
play
whenever someone says the word "but," everything they say before that, just you invalidate it.
I know. I want to play a game that has color and that is like light outside and stuff where you can see.
You want to play a Mario game?
Well,
just
you know,
wanna
these
be able
games
to
are pretty
see things.
short. You have some time to play other games.
No, I've been playing the Swapper this last week and it's my off time. That's actually kind of a clever puzzler game that I've been pretty surprised with.
I was going to go back and play Resident Evil 4, the HD version, which I have bought in my Steam library. I figured I would do it.
Yeah.
Like, so Nick, the only game you're playing is Swapper, and it's also like really dark.
It's
and
pretty dark. I didn't think it was
if
going to be.
you told
that
me it was
dark.
a bad movie, like the Swapper sounds like something that like Liam Neeson's like, fine, I'll be in the Swapper.
Sure, I need a boat.
I'm a man with a series of skills. You give me something, I can swap it.
Liam Neeson, you know what's funny about him? I knew him before. I don't know if it's before he got famous, but before everyone I knew who he was, because I remember him from Null. I think it's Null. Is that the movie?
I didn't know
The one with
anything,
the star throw thing. Like it's a fantasy movie. You don't
Wait,
know?
you mean Krull?
Krull? Is it Krull?
Is it? Or wait,
it's like
he was in Krull. Yeah.
Yeah, Krull. Do you guys know that movie?
Yeah, he's in that.
He's in that. That's where I recognized him first time.
So Krull. I remember I was super excited to see Krull when I was little, and I had somehow got the impression as like a 6-year-old that this was actually a He-Man movie. So like I was watching Krull and I knew that like even like when I'd seen like adaptations as a kid, I knew they weren't the same. And I kept trying to be like, all right, is this like supposed to be the He-Man character in there? I just remember like breaking my brain because I'm like, I just don't understand this He-Man movie. And I tried so hard.
Was it a straight to like VHS movie or something, or did it actually play in the theater?
No, I watched the last one. I watched in the theater.
Really?
And I remember watching it with my friend John, and we just were making fun of it the whole time and upset everybody else in the theater, I think.
So you might be thinking that's a different one.
Oh, am I thinking of a different one?
No, because it's Krull. Because remember, that's when you're Cool as Krull. Krull came out in 1983, so you and John didn't go to the theater together.
No, we
didn't. 3-year-olds.
No. That's Liam.
I mean, that'd have been fascinating. You're like, my first memories was with my friend watching Krull.
So what did I watch?
You watched. It's a Kevin Sorbo movie.
Yeah,
because it's the one where like there's fire on an iceberg.
Yeah, I remember he's running along ice, and then there's fire shooting up around him.
I think it's Krull the Conqueror.
Is it Krull the Conqueror? Yeah, you're right. That's a 1997 film, Krull the Conqueror.
Krull the Conqueror. Okay. Woo!
And
Pulled that one out of the old Mind Palace. Jesus.
And we thought like Hercules was like the shit that time, so we were like, "Oh my gosh, this is gonna be amazing."
I remember because I think I was working at the theater when you guys came out, and you were laughing hysterically, and I'm like, "Is it that funny?" Like, no, it's so bad. I just remember John, because when he gets like really laughy, he can't talk.
Yeah.
We were trying to talk about the iceberg on fire. That's probably why it stuck so hard. It's like, on fire. I don't understand.
What's Kroll? I don't even know if I know Kroll.
You gotta watch it.
You've seen Kroll when you were a kid, because it was one of the like series of weird fantasy movies that came out in the mid '80s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've seen it. I recognize the picture.
Yeah, but he's at Liam Neeson. Isn't that somehow we've led all those way down?
Yeah.
Sword and sorcery. They don't make enough sword and sorcery stuff, man. They need more sword and sorcery stuff.
Because of Game of Thrones, we're going to be getting a lot of stuff.
You know what I want to see is a
most sword and sorcery movies aren't good. Up until like Lord of the Rings, there's very few that are watchable.
That's not true. Have you seen the Beastmaster? Beastmaster's great.
There's a thing. There's a lot of movies I loved, but I would be like, are they good? Oh no, it's just hot trash.
I wouldn't think Lord of the Rings is sword and sorcery. It's just a straight
Ask
fantasy.
Anyone who's not a fantasy person, you're like, oh yeah, it's a sword and sorcery. 100%. It's really high end, super quality, fantastic, but it's fantasy.
That's fantasy.
Like, to actually argue against it's like, this is impressive. I want to hear this argument. You're like, Lord of the Rings is not fantasy. It's actually a socialistic deconstruction of the neo-Marxist ideas of the late Eastern European bloc. You're like, fairly certain this is sword and sorcery.
Okay. All right, so we went down this weird road. I think we're just done with Until Dawn.
Yeah, so Man of Medan, who's going to play it?
What?
Man of Medan, it's their Dark Pictures anthology.
I probably won't anytime soon.
I mean, send it to me, and I'll see how it
I
looks.
bought it. I already have it sitting in there. If I play it, if I gave it to you for free, you can't keep it, just borrow it.
I mean, I'm complaining about it. I don't know if it's entirely the price. So, I mean, how long does
it sounds like you're just done with horror movies and horror. I'm sorry,
Little Nightmares is like 4 hours. Well, it might be 6 hours with the DLC stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I got the DLC with it too.
Yeah, it's like 4 to 6 hours.
Let's not force Nick to play any other games besides what we have on our list. Nick, you play your colorful little Mario games or whatever you're gonna do, and be happy.
But I'm not saying play it now. I'm just saying, would you play it in the future?
Oh, absolutely, yes, 100%.
Oh, okay, that's what I'm looking for. Yeah. Same, especially considering the sequel of the Dark Anthology Pictures comes out in 2 weeks. So
yeah,
maybe we'll see.
Definitely.
But I will tell you, there was a prequel to Until Dawn. Is it called The Inpatient? Yeah. I have literally zero. As much as I liked Until Dawn, I'm like, yeah, I don't want to go back to the psych ward. I don't care.
Yeah.
Do not want.
It's a game that I don't want to explore more. I'm fine with it. It's off.
Until Dawn? What do you mean? Like, you mean the Until Dawn franchise?
Yeah, Until Dawn. I was like, I'm done. I don't really care to mess with this anymore.
Or like Man of Medan, do you want to play that?
I might. Like, eventually? Mean, if it was around and I was just like, yeah, I'll play it. I kind of want to play Dragon Ball Z Kakarot more than I want to play.
Well, that's fair.
Yeah. So that's
I want to play like Mario Galaxy more than any of these other games, but that's just gonna have to wait till colorful November.
Should we play Thanksgiving games throughout November?
Yes.
There's something Christmas games.
Actually, there is a Thanksgiving game. It's called Beethoven for Super Nintendo. It's it should definitely go on our list. It's
and there's the South Park for N64. Do you guys remember that game?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was Thanksgiving.
Mark, do you know what game I'm talking about? The Beethoven.
I just think of the dog in the Beethoven movie.
It's Beethoven the dog.
Is it?
Yeah. It's not like it has nothing to do. I don't know. Maybe there's Thanksgiving.
Is there actually a game?
It's just
called Beethoven.
Yeah, it's like a platformer where you're a dog.
I think I know what you're
talking about. It's one of those games. It's one of those games you feel like is actually made in a game jam, let alone like actually produced by someone and sent out and shipped. It's trash tier, but it's kind of one of those like you just give it to someone because it's hilarious.
If we play that, you guys got to play Chex Quest.
I would rather play Chex Quest 10 times over than playing Beethoven again.
Okay.
It's
So why don't we play only games that have Thanksgiving scenes in them? Like we'll play Animal Crossings till we get to the Thanksgiving part, and we'll play like a South Park game until we get to the Thanksgiving part where you shoot the turkeys. Well, like all the games will have Thanksgiving in it somewhere.
Well, we already forgot. There's a game that's going to take over the entire month.
When does it come out again?
It's like the first. It's 7th, I think.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah. Cyberpunk.
I don't know if I'm playing it though. I don't know if I'm playing it in November. I don't know if I can.
You sexually out?
I don't know if I can.
Because you're set for PlayStation 5.
Yeah, I think I have to play it for
What
PlayStation
if I
5.
actually get a PlayStation 5? Will you come over to my house and then fire up old
But
Cyberpunk?
you can play it with a PlayStation 4, and then it will let you take it over to a PlayStation 5.
I'm not worried about that. I don't know if my PlayStation 4 will actually play it. It might. It overheats when I try to play Arkham Asylum.
Just bring out a fan, turn on it, so it's like.
Yeah, no, I should open it up and try to clean it with my skills or something.
Yeah, I don't know how we're gonna do November. I really don't. How are we gonna?
I don't know. What if I'm the only one with a PS5?
Might be. Did either of you look at the PS5 menu? They brought out a sneak peek.
I saw a little bit of it, but I didn't actually.
It actually looked kind of fun if you want to play with friends. You can bring up like your game, and then in the side-by-side window, you can bring up your friend playing whatever game they're playing too. And then it was trying to incorporate more, like in PS exclusive games. If you wanted a hint or something like that, instead of looking up on the internet, you can just go into a menu and be like, "Hey, I'm at this part in the game. Can you give me like a little bit of an idea of what to do here if I missed something?" And it'll tell you everything.
That's what I would have done with Amnesia.
Old way when you call like the Nintendo Power consultants, you're like, so I'm trying to find this part in Mega Man 4. It's like, you need the air button.
I kind of like the side by side. So I can play a game and someone else, like one of you guys can play a different game, and then I'm watching you play and you're watching me play, and we're just talking.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of fun.
I wouldn't want it.
I like the idea of it, but a part of me is like, I don't usually. I would rather us be sitting next to each other, or if you were just playing the game like Until Dawn, and like I could tap in and we could kind of like play together. But in terms of like, if I'm playing a game, you're like, "Hey Brian, did you see that?" Yeah, no, I'm playing my game. I didn't. Really good triple turn. It was great.
I mean, I like the idea of someone's playing, and because they do it with Steam right now, where someone is actually playing a game and they could just broadcast it, and you can just say, "Oh, they're broadcasting. Let me just double click and go see what they're doing." I like that idea, and I do it. No one ever comes and watches me play games when I broadcast. I feel pretty bad about it, but.
Thought maybe it's you, not the game or anything.
It's me. I mean, only my friends know my Steam stuff, so it's not like I'm streaming it to like the world or anything. It's just like my buddies, but my buddies don't care what I'm playing.
I'm not. Actually, I'm usually offline on Steam, but I've never seen you do that.
Am I offline on Steam? Maybe I'm offline on Steam. I don't know.
And it goes to your Frosty channel, yeah?
No. It's just private Steam broadcast.
Oh.
Yeah, so every time I play a game on Steam, it says, "Hey, you're broadcasting it. Your friends can watch you now." And I think that's kind of what I would like about the PlayStation doing it.
Yeah. No, that would be neat. I'm not on Steam this whole like quarantine because I've mostly just been all PlayStation. Other than Disco Elysium. That was we were online a lot for that one. But I mean, because then the only time games I play when I'm not playing this stuff we've been playing, when I play like TFT, I mean, that's all just in the League client. So,
I mean, I think for November, we can just kind of talk about whatever we want to talk about. It doesn't have to be about particular games. I mean, we could talk about our sort of experience and where we're all at with Cyberpunk, but we don't have to be like beat the game in a week or whatever, or have a timeline with it. But there's a lot of stuff that's going to be happening in November.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a lot of stuff for us to talk about that might not even be video game related. We may be having some serious discussions about.
Yep. Get my go bag ready.
We have been shipped 2 buckets of 30-day dried food powder stuff.
Yeah.
And we know it's from Cheryl's parents, but they haven't admitted to it yet. Because
Why are they hiding that?
I don't know.
Why would they not admit it?
I guess it's better than 30 days of anthrax.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was like, all right, well, cool. Because they are under the impression the world's going to end if, good Orange Boy doesn't save us.
That sentence. I'd be like, I'm not sure they're not wrong.
Yeah, but they think it's the other way around, right?
Yeah.
I think it's like Trump is supposed to save everyone or something like that. Anyways.
Well, from 4 years, it just seems unlikely.
Yeah. But we'll see.
If I was a betting man, which I am, I would not bet on being saved.
Yeah. And it sucks because there is going to be a lot of stuff to play and talk about and everything with the PlayStation 5 coming out. I mean, Nick and I might not get it until the second shipment before Christmas.
That just means you have to come over to
That's true. Yeah, we can watch you play Spider-Man, but I'm sure Nick would hate that.
I don't have to watch. You can just play.
Oh, okay. So, like, one person would, like, play the game and the other two would go fondle each other in, like, another room or something?
It depends. Well, it has to be, like, normal sex stuff because we don't want you to get awkward.
We can't, like, do the stuff in the goldfish
Yeah,
pond?
remember, if it's weird sex stuff, you're just out. You got to do, like, normal sex stuff for you to be like, okay, I'm comfortable.
I'm going to be busy in November playing Meat Boy 2. I forgot that.
Does it come out? Is it?
Wait. Meat Boy Forever. I can't wait for it to come out in 29. Like,
yeah,
I just want to know at this point, like, what are they tweaking? Like, because it's been in final phase development for 4 years.
Do they not hire people to help them? Like, are they not like a game studio now? Is it just still the 2 guys?
I felt like after what they pulled off with Meat Boy, they made a cajillion amount of dollars.
Yeah, like I would think that they would have like a game
Actually,
company.
Spent all of their money mostly on advertising for AGDQs for the games and quick forever. Because I mean, they were one of the primary and like sponsors for as long as I've been watching it. So 2014, 2015.
Can you pre-order Meat Boy Forever?
It says here release date October 9th. Did it?
Is it out?
Literally come out 6 days ago. Please
That's
don't
not
be true.
There's no
It can't
way.
be true. Their website says coming 2019 to Switch.
Are you sure that's not like the original Meat Boy?
I want them to like never actually release the game and be like, this was all a ruse.
It would have been one of the biggest ones.
Okay. On the Nintendo Switch, it says TBD.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you just Google Super Meat Boy Forever, it says release October 9th, 2020. But then you click on to go to their website, and it says coming 2019 to Switch, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Epic's Game Store, Steam 2020.
A fucking game.
I'm like, fuck. One of the stupidest moments of my life is about to be caught literally on camera. It's like,
no. If that's the stupidest moment in your life, you've had a really good run.
I had a really great life. Yeah, no, there's infinitely number of stupid moments, but that was a particular.
Yeah.
That was
all
great.
right. Little Nightmares. Completely different than the games that we have played so far.
It's a Little Big Planet, fucked up Little Big Planet.
Yeah,
that's how I've understood it.
Yeah, and I think they do a lot of stuff where they don't tell you how to play. You have to kind of figure it out.
What was that, Nick?
I think you can also play it mobile if you want to.
Can you?
I mean, we're playing on PS, but
Gross.
I think you can play it mobile.
Yeah.
You can play Limbo mobile.
No. I'm gonna play it on PlayStation. I had a little bit of time with it so far, and I can see it being something that I enjoy. So we'll see how it goes.
We should just go and be like, I think this game is garbage, and then Mark's be like, I'll be the judge of that. It was awesome.
It was the best.
Can't.
No, it's completely different because it's just kind of to me it's a sit back and kind of just enjoy what they did with it. It's not like a horror, like you're doing it and you're going to get scared at some point. Maybe they'll have a couple of like, oh, moments like, huh, but that'll be it.
Yeah, but maybe if you were like younger, you could find some of the deeper elements.
It's creepy.
More,
I think that was most of it. It's just creepy.
Yeah.
Well,
that's like I
never. I'm just hoping for some really good design elements.
Yeah.
Like with monsters or like areas or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, this was kind of like I want an approximate feeling I get from like playing like Inside or Limbo, where like obviously those two games are gold standard top tier, but you're like I just want some platforming, some interesting visuals, and maybe a story, and just do some weird stuff. Like anything out of that seems pretty good.
Yeah, that's probably what you'll get.
Yeah, which will be.
It's a good break. It's a good break from what we've had.
And then we're right into Amnesia, the new one.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So we'll mess with that some, and I guess we'll see what that turns out to be next week, and then when Amnesia, and then we end with the election. That'll be all the horror. Yeah.
Yep.
It ended on a bright note, Mark.
Yeah.
Well, Halloween's a Saturday this year, so that'll be good.
It's Mog Talk Halloween.
Nice.
Are you going to finally dress up like a Moogle? Or are you going to be a bitch and not do it?
I could put some toilet paper on my head and draw on it, and then we could say I look, like a Moogle. But no, I got to figure out something for that. There's some stuff with I've been playing 14 a bit more recently too, because they released some new content stuff that I'm doing, but it's good. I never do any of the seasonal events, so I don't know what the Halloween stuff is. I think they skipped Halloween stuff this year, but anyways, completely different conversation. We've been going for like 2.5 hours, and we haven't even talked about Until Dawn for the last hour, so I think it's a good spot to end the show. I feel bad for whoever watches this.
Well, it's on them. It's not like they're like, oh, I have to stay till the end to hopefully win my prize. It's like we didn't make anyone clock in. If you're here, hey, well, way to hang around, guy.
Like a handful of people watch this every week, and I'm sure they're just like, what the fuck am I listening to?
That's very fair.
That's all right. This is the unstructured Hang Out with Friends podcast, and if they listen to it, that's shame on them.
Or shame on us. I don't know.
I guess so. Anything else we want to say before we at least go off air?
I think I'm good.
No, I'm good. I like Until Dawn. I want more games like this to, every few months play a game like it. I like it. Yeah.
We do have
it's a good intro. Style. Oh, I mean, it's not related, but is there ever a game you played that was even similar to this before?
I mean, I just go to Telltale Games, and that's what I would relate it
to.
The closest thing.
That's fair. Yeah. I've never played the Telltale.
Like Heavy Rain was pretty close to this, but
okay.
I already mentioned.
Yeah. But all right, cool. Next week hopefully I'll have that intro video done with the new intro song that you have. That's perfect for the show. It's like the perfect song for the show. So you did a really good job.
I can't wait for next week's main event.
All right. Well, thanks guys for watching and listening to us ramble for an hour after we we talked about Until Dawn. Until next time, be good, keep cool, stay frosty, and bye guys. I just wanted to see Brian's face.
I'm frosty.